Chapter 1. Pain is all I know. A 7-year-old blonde was standing in the middle of a street filled with villagers. It wasn't daily that the villagers would gather on the street after sunset. But the villagers were more than lively on this special occasion. It was October 10th. It was one of those days when they could practice their martial arts or shinobi skills on a live target. And instead of feeling pity, they would get to have fun taking in the sight of the battered blonde boy. The boy, named Naruto Uzumaki, had the means of defending himself easily against 2 or 3 villagers. A few self-taught lessons on taijutsu was quite useful for protection, but today he couldn't dare to use his fighting skills. Not because he was outnumbered, which he was by a vast amount, but every time he showed resistance against one hit, the next hit would be twice more brutal. It wasn't just random punches and kicks thrown by villagers. No, it was far from that. On this special day, everyone's creativity rose beyond the skies as they made bottle bombs, homemade weapons, and everything that could mark that tiny blonde boy's body with pain. The boy had extremely powerful hearing, smell, and vision for even an Inuzuka clan member or a dog. However, this special trait never helped him gain the edge over his enemies. In fact, it only worked to break his tiny heart beyond repairs. Every day he would walk by the streets, it would be nothing but the villagers calling him a demon from distance. The demon should have died. What does the demon want? More blood. That demon ain't fooling nobody, shit dog. None of the kunais did more damage to him than the hateful glares from the villagers. Also, his fast healing had a part in shielding him from the damage dealt by any kunai. But the glares, the curses, the loneliness was only for him to deal with. No one would hug him when he went home from a bad day. All the nightmares would haunt him, only to be locked up in his heart forever. It was not a life he was living. He was living a hellish nightmare that he can only hope to see the end of. He didn't want to die. There were so many things he wanted to do before he died. He wanted to be a great ninja. He wanted to make Hokage Gigi proud of him. He wanted to make his first friend, and mostly he wanted to have a family, feel the warmth of someone's touch, feel the love that he only saw existing in romantic movies. But desires can't lock him away from the pain either. His ever-changing mind jumps day to day from thoughts of suicide to unwavering determination to live. Today, however, wasn't the day he wanted to survive at all costs. The barrage of kunais hit him as he was running towards an alley. His hesitation to die or live was crucial in his worst decision, which was to walk into an alley where he would have no escape. The 2 chunin charging behind him were skilled enough to follow him since the beginning of the hunt. They had the widest grins on their faces looking at the prize. Out of the 104 kunai wounds on the boy, the most gruesome 34 wounds were dealt by these 2. The boy was down on the ground. The latest barrage of kunais had a success rate of 60%, as 6 out of the 10 were still sticking onto his body. 2 of them hit the tendons on the legs. One of the 2 sliced open through the tendon, while the other one was still stuck in the leg, with the just handle sticking out. The meat around the handle was spread open due to the wider size of the blade. The meat was dripping liters of liquid blood, which gave off a small bit of steam. The steam was from the wound healing itself. Naruto cursed his fast healing, as he saw the meat heal itself to only tightly pack in the kunai into the leg. A single movement in the leg would bring him to tears easily. The other 4 kunais that managed to land right on the mark made even more gruesome injuries. 3 of them neatly sliced into the back of Naruto, while the other one stuck to his muscle, gluteus maximus. The 2 kunais that lodged into his tendon made him lose balance. His extremely fast reactions made him twist his body to avoid falling face first. He cursed his luck as he knew he was in for a world of pain. He fell on his butt. The kunai broke into his back, breaking the back plate of his pelvis and almost reaching his internal organs. The pain was unbearable, and his body jerking to the pain caused him to further twist the kunais as he yelled out in agony. The 2 chunins were proud of their achievement so far. They waited for the blonde to stop screaming so that they could go on to finishing move. But then they heard the boy speak to them for the first time. "Why do you hate me so much? I am sorry for the pranks if you are angry about that," the boy said in between his sobbing. All he received in reply was a loud roar of laughter from the 2. "Stop trying to pretend to be innocent, you demon. The Hokage wasn't fooled by your lies either." "What do you mean? I never lied to him about anything." The chunin's laughter grew louder as he realized the boy trusted the Hokage a lot. A little but of suffering before death would be more fun for him. After the Kyuubi's attack, he had been one of the people who lost something really valuable. He lost the love of his life along with his humanity. After his lover's death, he only lived to kill, and to kill was to have fun. Today he was finally going to get his revenge, and revenge is a dish best served cold. He waited for the right year, the right opportunity. The Hokage was out on a simplistic diplomatic mission to Suna. By the time he would be back, the job would be done. The Umbus assigned to protect Naruto were also the ones who disliked Naruto enough to not harm him directly, but let him die by others' hands. This was the perfect opportunity. He wanted to add a bit of spice to the cold dish he prepared for the Kyuubi brat. You know the Hokage assigned me to kill you. That's why 9 of the ninjas are helping you out. He smirked wide as he saw the wide, open, shocked eyes of Naruto. He did it. He added the perfect spice for his dish. Naruto was just sitting there, the pain of the 6 kunais stuck in his body overcome by the pain in his heart. The one man he trusted betrayed him. No one was left for him to turn to. He was all alone on this nightmare. The angel he thought would save him stabbed him with trident of devil. Naruto gave up. He has had enough of this nightmare. And he was hoping this time would be the end. He closed his eyes, not before he noticed the Chunin take out a scroll and mysteriously bring out an axe from the scroll. The dish was ready. The Chunin rose the axe up all the way to get better momentum in the swing. With heavy weights on his shoulders, he swung his arms. The axe cut through air with a zapping sound. Everyone watched as the axe moved closer and closer to the body. The villagers seemed to have gained a Sharingan each, as they almost felt time slow down. The axe reached the body. With a soft, screeching noise, the blade made its entry into the flesh. The blade, with its incredible sharpness, sliced through each inch of the flesh like butter. No messy, grinded flesh hung on the side of the blade. Each millisecond of the action was burned into the memory of the villagers forever to be kept as a memoir. The blade had just few more inches to finish its job before it deviated from its original projected path. The blade, instead of slicing the boy in half, managed to only slice this so that a thick chunk of flesh still connected the torso to the lower body. The deviation of the blade wasn't an accident, no, far from it. The wielder of the blade lost all sense in his brain just before he finished the swing, ending his swing to be a failure in slicing the boy in half. The Chunin had no sense of fun or amusement from the sliced-up body of the boy, as at the moment the only thing he felt were pain and fear. Fear, fear, and fear. 2 black pupils drilling holes through his head. He couldn't move his body and zap. Everyone who was taking in the pleasure of watching the blind boy's torso being split in half lost all sense of surroundings. The only thing they felt was the overwhelming killing intent that swept through the whole area. Those who were looking at the roofs saw the silhouette of the 3rd Hokage. Then one more second, and he was gone. No one saw what happened as they heard a noise of slicing flesh. They turned back to the Chunin holding the axe to see the head of the man slide off the neck. The head tumbled on the ground a few times before they notices the demon brat was gone. The Hokage, according to the still-standing shinobis, was standing on the same roof as before, carrying the boy in his arms. The next second, every standing shinobi fell to the ground while clutching their heads in their hands. Most of them were unconscious, while some of the shinobis went into shock after having felt such a massive killing intent. The Hokage moved at the speed of a perfectly performed shunshin through the village as he reached the hospital in a blink. He broke through the wall to the medic. Please bring any senior medic to this boy's aid this instant. The seriousness in his tone sent chills through any staff member in the room. The nurse went to a room to call the medic. The Hokage followed. Ms. Haruno, we are ordered to heal Naruto Uzumaki this instant, since he is in a life-threatening condition. The name clicked in her mind and merely grunted, I'm not going. I don't care what happens to that dem dash. She couldn't finish as she and the wide-eyed nurse who realized her mistake started choking from lack of breath as a heavy killing intent brought them down to their knees. Everyone in the hospital stopped their movement. The Umbu guarding the Hokage fell down from their hinge nearby, as the killing intent got them to the brink of insanity. The Hokage looked like a monster to them, which was well complemented by the tales of his monstrous strength in battlefield. If I ever hear any of you call him a demon, I will cut open your throats at this very moment. He calmed himself for a second, I don't care what prejudiced views you hold about our hero, but you will aid his healing at this very moment unless you want to die." The threat was as straightforward as it could be. He was ashamed to be the Hokage of such ignorant fools. The nurses began healing Naruto. He took another look at his splattered guts, and he couldn't stay in the room anymore. Several nurses were being carried out, since they fainted from either the Hokage's Kekkei, killing intent, or the sight of a little boy being harmed to such extent. The Hokage, for the first time in many years, let a drop of tears slide down his aging eyes. "Minato, you were a fool to sacrifice your son's future for such ignorant villagers. And I am ashamed of not being able to protect your child. I truly am pathetic." One day later, the Hokage was sitting right next to the blonde boy's bed for the 30th hour in a row. He didn't care if the village went to hell meanwhile. A village that couldn't value the sacrifice of its hero didn't deserve anything better. He was brought out of his thoughts as the young boy in his mind stirred up and started to open his eyes. The Hokage brought his attention to him as his blue eyes met his pair of black eyes. Instead of seeing relief in the blue eyes, what he saw was disappointment, anger, and all the negative emotions he could think of. Suddenly, he felt like he couldn't face the boy after what he had let happen to him. There was a disturbing amount of silence in the area, which was finally cut down by the blonde's voice. "Why can't I just die?" The Hokage's eyes looked down in regret and sorrow. Then he heard the boy sobbing. "If they hate me so much for some reason I don't even know, then why couldn't they just kill me? Every time I tried to kill myself, I never died. I cut my throat, my veins, my stomach, every place I could think of. But every time I woke up the next day with just scars and back to this hell." He looked up to the Hokage's face. "Why can't I just die, Gigi?" Then Naruto saw something he felt bad for. He saw regret and tears in the Hokage's eyes. He knew that he made the Hokage cry. He made the strongest man cry for him. Then what surprised him more was the Hokage's actions. Hiruzen Sarutobi leaned forward, bent his back, and got down to his knees, and bowed towards Naruto while touching his forehead on the ground. "I am so sorry, Naruto-kun. I truly am. I watched you suffer all these years, and I still couldn't do anything about it. Please do not throw away your life for these pathetic villagers. I hope one day you will find your place in this village and someone who loves you if you live long enough. Until that day, I want you to live, at least for me." Naruto felt bad for making the Hokage suffer like this. He thought a man of his stature wouldn't care about him. Especially after hearing the rumor of him ordering Naruto's death, Naruto was doubtful. But all traces of his doubt was gone. The Hokage cried for him, bowed down to a mere boy in the village because he cared for him. The Hokage had a lot of work to do in the village, which is why he can't always help out Naruto. But the Hokage tried to help as long as he could. A wave of determination swept through Naruto's brain. He decided he was going to make the Hokage proud of him. He would not throw away his life so easily. He would live enough to find his valuable people. His weak smile towards the Hokage made him sigh in relief. "Naruto-kun, I have many paperworks to finish from yesterday, so I will be taking my leave if you don't mind. And please visit me anytime you have any problem. Don't hesitate. Also, I have some umbus I need to take special care of. So see you when you get better." The Hokage left with a smile. As soon as the Hokage left, his smile faded back to his scowl. He hated the village, but he didn't want to show it in front of the Hokage. His mask of the happy, joyful person throughout the village remained intact, while his cold blue eyes stayed locked to himself. He snapped back his stupid grin as he heard commotion near the door. His sensitive ears, once again back to its formal glory, picked up the faintest of noise from the conversation. "The demon survived again, and now we have to take care of him. I hate my job." "Well, gotta do the dirty things for money. No one likes being a prostitute either." "Whatever. If you think so, why don't you go and treat that demon?" "Oops, running out of time for my date. See you later." "Damn single bitch, making fake excuses." The door opened with the creaking noise. Both Naruto and the nurse were now wearing a fake smile, which hurt Naruto even more. He tried with all his willpower to stop the drop of tear from falling from his eyes. "So did you eat your food? Do you have a headache or pain in your chest? Are you nauseous?" The nurse bombarded him with all the questions, since she didn't have the patience to ask them individually in presence of the demon. Naruto, with his amazing acting, just smiled and said excitedly, "Yes, The chicken soup was really great. And no, I don't have any problems so far. Well, then I'm leaving. Neglect of patients' health could be punished severely if committed by a medical staff, but no one bothered since it was the demon. She just hurried out of the room. Naruto just sat there, the tears spilling from his eyes again. He wished the Hokage stayed with him for a little longer, so that he could take a longer break from the nightmare. He closed his eyes to take a nap. He suddenly felt as if he was lying in a puddle of water. He opened his eyes to see nothing but darkness. The floor was wet, and no one but him seemed to be present in the place. He started looking around for proof of life around, but all he managed to see was a bit of light coming from a hallway close by. He got up and followed the light. The hallway had several torches lighting up the area. There were several sewer lines running through the hallway, and all of them led to a big door. He entered the room through the door, and in front of him stood a massive cage. Even a mansion wasn't usually that big. When he started to move closer to it, something came forth towards the cage. Two gigantic crimson eyes pierced through the darkness. A few more seconds, and before him stood a tall, gigantic fox. The fox grinned to show its fangs. The fox was expecting the blonde to scream out in fear, but was heavily disappointed to see him picking his nose. "Oi, brat, you know I could kill you any moment. So when your life is on the line, you shouldn't be picking your nose. Are you stupid? If you wanted to kill me, you would have done so already. Your arms could easily pass through the bars of the cage." "I see. You are not as stupid as I thought. You are correct that I am not going to kill you. But I guess you are not afraid of me because you don't know me. Or else you would be pissing your pants right now." "Oi, I don't fear anything. Since I am the amazing Naruto, who is going to be the strongest shinobi in the village, the Hokage." "Amazing, my ass. You could be the most ridiculous of them, I am sure. I am Kyubi no Kitsune, the demon that attacked your village 7 years ago." "Oi, are you stupid? The Yondaime killed you 7 years ago on October 10th. Don't try to fool me." Then something clicked into his mind. 7 years ago, on October 10th, the day everyone beats him up, when everyone calls him a demon. It was no coincidence. His eyes widened in shock. He pointed his finger at himself shakily. "So that means you were not killed, but caged in me all these years." "Yes, stupid brat. Took you long enough to understand. If you die, then I die. It's because I am sealed in you. The Yondaime sealed me in you. And every time you try to kill yourself, I have to heal you, so that I don't die with your pathetic little body. And these stupid villagers don't even understand the difference between a jail and a prisoner. They keep thinking you are my reincarnation and tried to kill you so many times. They are more of a demon, to be honest." Stupid Ninjen. There were many emotions on Naruto's face, too many to understand. He was sad, angry, furious, and also happy that he found out. But then regret hit him. He started crying to himself. He got down on his knees and bowed down, not caring if the puddle of water on the floor drenched his blonde hair and forehead. His crying didn't stop. The Kyubi was indeed fascinated. Why was the boy crying and bowing at the same time? "I am sorry. I am so sorry. I never even thought about how I could have killed you along with myself. I would have done just what the villagers wanted. I am really sorry," he said again in between his sobs. "Thank you so much for keeping me alive for all these years." To say Kyubi was a little shocked was like saying Sandaime Hokage was an average ninja. The Kyubi couldn't find words to say. He was the reason Naruto's life had been hell so far, but without a second thought Naruto bowed down to thank him. He felt sorry that he almost killed the demon that brought his life to this state. He felt sorry that he almost killed the demon that killed so many people. He felt sorry for the demon that made him lonely for all these years. The Kyubi let tears spill from his eyes. The strongest of the Bijou had never been shown any form of kindness since the Sage of Six Paths brought them to the shinobi world. He was hated, used as a weapon, cursed for destructive power, and used in the most disgusting ways possible. But here was a boy standing, whose whole life had been a mess because of him, showed him gratitude for his existence. Instead of being blamed for the misfortunes he brought, he thanked him for saving him. He didn't hate him. He was his first Jinchuriki who didn't hate him. "Brat, you know no ninjen has ever seen me cry. You are lucky enough to make both the Hokage and the strongest Bijou cry in front of you. But you shouldn't readily trust someone so easily. What I did was for my own survival. And besides, I killed many of your villagers. You must have read about that. Do you still think I am kind? There must have been a reason for that. You don't seem that bad to me. To be honest, you seem much less demonic than the villagers. And I don't even trust most of the things they teach anyway. I have been lied to most of my life, so might as well find out the truth from you. He finished with a grin. The QB at least didn't hate him. I am sorry, but even after being the strongest Bijou, one of the Uchihas used their Sharingan to force me to attack Konoha. Most of my memories from my previous container is sealed for some reason, but I only remember that the fourth sealed me into you, and himself using a Shinigami summon. There was another woman with red hair who was also dying at the moment. Sorry, but that's all I know. See, I knew you weren't that bad. The fox just smiled in response, before he was bombarded with another question. Why, Furball, why didn't I see you ever before? The last time you were injured the most since your birth, so I had to spend a huge amount of my chakra to heal you. That's why now I am connected to your mindscape. You could actually form a direct link later, so that we could talk whenever you are bored of talking to your plants. The blonde became embarrassed at being found out, but then the fox's eye opened wide. He gained a tick mark on his forehead. Did you by mistake call me a furball? I am not quite sure if that was intentional. Naruto replied with a straight face. No, actually I would like to call you furball from now on. The fox was sure he would have killed him if it were not the fact that he would die along with Naruto then. He calmed himself after intense meditation. My name is Kurama, not Furball. Got it. You got it, Furball. The fox was about to slice his throat when Naruto slipped and fell on his head first and got knocked out and woke up in the hospital bed. Phew, that was one hell of an introduction. Chapter 2. Will you be my friend? There were quite a few things in the world that Naruto hated with passion. Waiting for the ramen to boil in water, the villagers' constant glares, Hokage's lecture after he did a prank, and lastly his special resting period in the hospital bed. Hospital beds were comparatively softer than his broken wooden framed pile of trash. But in his bed, he wasn't served poison such as the hospital food. Well, maybe a few times, when he thought the food presented to him was a gift instead of assassination medium. But that doesn't count for much. While he stayed in the hospital bed, he wasn't served the only thing that could fuel his flames of youth, the medicine that could heal his wounds, the potion that could replenish his exhausted mana. He wasn't served ramen in the hospital. He hated it. He could waste his life in a prison if only he was promised his daily demanded intake of ramen, which was usually around 15 bowls. Right now, Naruto was lying on that same bed, thinking of the ramenless 3 days of torture he suffered to keep the Hokage happy. Well, not anymore. Even the future Hokage has limits to how much he could sacrifice for the current Hokage. He tried to get up from his lying position and felt the pain course through his body, but it was nothing compared to the separation he suffered from ramen. He clenched his fist. I will not die in this shithole before getting 15 bowls of ramen in my stomach. The shining orbs of his blue eyes reflected his determination. A unwavering determination to survive, to fulfill his destiny, to eat his ramen. 5 minutes later, he was lying face first on the green patch of grass near the window of a 2-floored hospital. As soon as he had gotten up from his bed, he jumped out of the window, before realization hit him and he went wide-eyed. Shit, this is the 2nd floor. The very next thing that hit him after realization was the ground, which was dried to crumbs from the lack of rain. His luck can sometimes rival even the legendary Sucker Tsunade's luck. Well, since he was used to having such great luck, he just dusted off his clothes, not even caring about his luck, because something bigger was on the line. Yes, his ramen, of course. He ran in a straight line through the streets, ignoring the glares, whispers, and all the villagers along the way. He barged into the ramen stall. The old man and Ayam were both relieved to see him all right. Hey, old man, I am really hungry. Could you get me 3 bowls of ramen to start with? Of course, I was getting quite worried that our most favorite customer was absent for so long. The boy's cheerful mask was about to break as he remembered why he was absent from his nectar. He put on a grin to cover it up. Old man Tucci, however, noticed the bandages on the boy wrapping most of his body, and knowing that 10th of October wasn't too long ago, he decided to do something to cheer him up. You know what? Today's meal is on the house. Really? You mean it, old man? Thanks a bunch. You know what? When I become the Hokage, I will even assign you for making food for the ninjas. Naruto complimented himself, His mask was fixed back with super glue, and no one knew a trace of how he felt. He slurped down bowls after bowls of ramen. Phew, that was great. Tell Ayam-chan when she comes back that I said hi. All right, Naruto. Take care, and come back again whenever you feel hungry. Naruto was really happy to have known such a man. Now that he thought about it, he realized how sad Teuchi and Ayam would have been if they found Naruto dead. He berated himself for ever even trying to commit suicide. But then again, today was the day where his mood demanded for his survival. A special contribution of ramen in this mood was a factor. He got up, patted his stomach, and removed the curtains and stepped outside. Maybe his mood didn't demand for his survival that strongly. The glares and the whispers were back with full force. He just hung his head low and kept walking through the streets. He kept picking up his pace little by little until he was running above the rooftops, landing on the Yondaime Hokage's monument. He felt at peace whenever he went to the top of the monument. The view of the village from that spot was amazing. But his visions were more amazing to him, since he visioned himself to be atop the strongest shinobi to have lived in the village. But right now, he didn't feel the amazement or peace at being on top of Yondaime. Rather, he felt despair and sadness. Why did the fourth Hokage choose him? Why choose him to be the sacrifice? Why sacrifice his future? Did he hate him enough to put this burden on him? Did he not think what would happen to him after the sealing? Did he not plan how to help him deal with the villagers? So many questions, but he knew one thing. They were not going to be answered anytime soon. Whenever he had pent up questions or thoughts in his mind that he needed to filter out, he used his trademark, fall asleep in a second jutsu. Well, most people wouldn't consider it a jutsu, but insomniac people would call this God's blessing. The strong gush of wind blew his spiky blonde hair, but his nap was undisturbed. He was dreaming about something he wanted with all his heart. He saw a large bowl of ramen. He was standing on the edge of the bowl. He jumped into the bowl to dive into the broth of the ramen. But instead of feeling the spicy mixture of nectar rush into his mouth, he felt his head hitting a strong concrete floor covered in a puddle of water. Getting up while scratching his head, he spotted the sewage darkroom, where stood the massive cage. Gaining a bit more control over his senses, he heard the rumbling and howling noises coming from the cage. He focused a bit more to see the fox clutching his stomach with both of his arms as he is laughing and rolling on the floor. After a few minutes of intense laughter, during which Naruto was clutching his fist and gaining tick marks on his forehead, the fox wiped off a few drops of fake tears from his laughter. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Isn't that what the ninjas say? Well, how did you like my cold dish of ramen? The fox started rolling in another fit of laughter, thinking his pun about the dish was the most hilarious thing in existence. Even more hilarious than Naruto and Sasuke accidentally kissing in the academy. Oh wait, that probably might happen in another parallel world. Oi damn fox, what was that all about? The boy tried to keep his cool, even though he had steam rising from his head, because he knew from experience that the fox might just kill him and eventually himself to get payback for disrespect. Oh, you mean that genjutsu about ramen? That was for calling me furball the last time we met. But on a more serious note, would you like to dive into eating another dish of ramen? He couldn't contain his breath and laughter as he emphasized dive, the word of his pun, to remind him of his glorious dive from the edge of the bowl to the ground. He went on his third fit of laughter of the day, and Naruto was sure he would have finished what the Yondaime couldn't, by killing him. But deciding it was for his benefit, he let him survive. After waiting for minutes that seemed like ages, he spoke up. All right, you are really funny, and I am sorry for calling you furball. But how did you do the genjutsu on me? I mean, aren't you caged in there? Now that the fox recovered enough to answer, he replied, well, you see, I could pass a limited of chakra into your chakra networks all the time. So I just channeled a bit of chakra in your system when you slept, so you had the dream about the genjutsu. If you were trained enough, you could have easily detected and dispelled this jutsu. Really? I see. So you can actually do something other than destroying stuff. The fox just grumbled in annoyance. But you know, I can't really learn that many things from this taijutsu books I took out from the trash. And I am quite sure they are just going to kick me out of the library again if I try to get any books from them. The regular stores wouldn't sell anything either with which I could train. Well, I hope you do remember someone of a high stature in this village who cried in front of you and told you that he would help you whenever you want. Sarcasm was oozing out from every syllable of his sentence. Naruto was confused for a second, and then he nodded his head in understanding. Then a glint of evil spread through his eyes, before it was covered with innocence of a newborn. He slammed the bottom of his fist into the other hand's palm, as if he solved a great mystery. Oh, I get it. You want me to ask you for help, since you were crying in front of me the other day, and everyone knows about you in the village, right? Naruto said with sense of accomplishment. Why, brat, I cried that one time since I was really emotional. Don't try to bring it up again. Besides, I remember someone trying to say a pickup line Titanic movie to a rose flower. The fox was rubbing his chin with his paw, as if he was trying hard to remember who it was that said that winning the ticket was the best thing happened to him, since he got to meet Rose. The blond boy went wide-eyed, as he realized that he should stop delivering pickup lines to flowers, since he had someone listening to him all the time. He decided to drop the topic for a while, since it was already embarrassing him too much to risk other information leaking out. All right, you win. So I think I could ask the Hokage for some scrolls on shinobi arts. Maybe then I could get stronger. Yeah, you better get stronger, since you are holding the almighty Nine Tails pride in your belly. Naruto just rolled his eyes. He realized strength and large chakra reserves meant nothing when it came to delivering the punch line instead of the punch. All right. By the way, is there any way I can talk to you whenever I want without having to get knocked out cold? Well, yes. You could just peel of the seal just a tiny bit. Then you could command to control the opening of the seal with your mind. When you want to talk to me, just imagine removing the seal a tiny bit, and we will be able to talk. He did as the fox told. He was pleased with the result, as he saw the little portion of the peeled of seal open and close based on his imagination. Well, that takes care of that. So now I can talk to you anytime I want. I guess now I won't have to talk to my plants anymore. So thanks. The fox felt happy to have done something good to boy, before he regretted his decision hearing the last word, furball. Naruto's lack shone through, as once again slipped while avoiding his claw, hitting his head on the ground, and returning back on top of the Hokage's monument. He looked around the village from the top, the bustling markets, the busy streets, students practicing art of ninjas in the academy, and many more things. Wait, students were practicing ninjutsu and other shinobi stuff. That's where he needs to go to learn about those things too. He got it. He added another topic on his mental checklist that he had to talk about when he faces the Hokage, as he started sprinting back towards the Hokage's office. The glare's once again present, but Naruto's mask of cheerful little prankster shone through once again, as he barged into the Hokage tower without anyone believing that he changed even a bit. He walked up to the counter and was told to wait a few minutes before he could enter. The lady on the counter wasn't one that tolerated him either, but being in the Hokage's close proximity, she didn't want to sign her death note by saying something that the demon brat deserved. A shout soon followed, and Naruto entered the room. He smelled the presence of few other people besides him in that room. He realized the fox's chakra intertwining with his own had now allowed for better detection through smell, vision, and hearing. He was brought out of his thoughts, as the Hokage spoke up. It's good to see you recovered so fast. I didn't quite expect your recommended resting period to be cut down by half by you. Naruto just laughed sheepishly, as he got caught again after skipping out on resting in hospital. But then again, you never liked the hospitals anyway, and I can't quite force them to only prepare ramen. Also, you seem to be in good health, so I guess I could let you pass. The Hokage saw Naruto sigh in relief. So I assume you have something on your mind for me? Naruto stood in amazement at being read so easily. Yes, I wanted to learn some ninja skills. I also want to join the Ninja Academy. It would help for self-defense and carve my path to the title of strongest Hokage. The stars in his eyes this time were real. He didn't need to act to be happy in front of the Hokage that much, because he made him happy with his mere presence. The Hokage smiled at his surrogate grandson's antiques. Yes, of course, I was about to enroll you in the academy from January, and you would graduate in 4 years if you don't skip out on classes. I see, but I really want to start my training now, so I do need some scrolls or books on ninjutsu and taijutsu, and maybe even jinjutsu. Yeah, you could get them from any library you want to be honest. I could provide you with some scrolls on special taijutsu style to fit your extreme instincts. But I am afraid I can give you any more scrolls of importance since it will show favoritism towards you, which I don't mind, but some villagers might a lot. Naruto started getting a bit nervous as he said, "Well, there is the problem. The librarian wouldn't let me enter the library. Neither would the bookstores sell me any books. So I can't buy them on my own." Naruto saw as the Hokage's fist was shaking, and Naruto was feeling bad for the librarian. "I guess I will be having a long talk with the librarian, soon-to-be ex-librarian." Naruto knew exactly what he meant. "Well, then Naruto-kun, meet me the day after tomorrow at 8 in the morning. I will go with you to the library to help you choose some scrolls." "Thanks a lot, Hokage Gigi. Well, I'll be leaving then." "Well, see you later, Naruto-kun." Naruto began to walk out of the room before he noticed something new, something he had never experienced before in the Hokage's room. He turned back to face the Hokage, piquing the Hokage's curiosity. "You know, Gigi, I think I like the 4 new Umbu members you have here. Any of them are yet to emit any killing intent at me as of now." The Hokage's eye widened as he stared at the fading form of Naruto moving out of the door. The boy could detect the best of the hidden ninjas, and he could predict by the lack of killing intent of the Umbus that they were newly appointed. He knew someone from his previous Umbu guards leaked the information of him leaving to Sand on October 10th, which led to Naruto's extreme injuries eventually. All 4 of those ex-Umbus were now enjoying time under Ibiki's torture. The Umbus stayed with the Hokage for so long, and he couldn't detect any killing intent from them at Naruto, but Naruto easily detected that. He closed his eyes with a wide grin, knowing that Naruto was going to be one of the best shinobis in the future considering how skilled his detection and perception already is at this age. He was proud of Naruto. Naruto was sitting on a bench in the middle of the park as the sun was about to dawn. He was holding his legs close to his chest as he was sitting down staring at other children of his age, playing with their friends. He was the only one sitting alone. He didn't want to come to the park because every time he did, it would only remind him of his loneliness. How everyone, including the children, avoided playing with him. The children had no reason to hate him, but as the saying goes, like father, like son. All the children followed their parents' hatred towards the blonde boy without any reason. He watched as many of their parents picked them up while he was sitting by himself. He watched as a boy with a puppy in his jacket left with a grown woman. A pink-haired girl was picked up by her pink-haired mother, who seemed familiar from the hospital. The pink-haired girl talked to a girl before leaving. That girl caught his eyes for some reason. Maybe it was the blonde hair that he imagined his mother or father to have. Maybe it was the green eyes that he thought was really uncommon. Maybe it was the cute face that could rival most of the child actresses he had seen. He was deep in his thoughts, while staring at her, that he didn't notice as she approached him. He thought he was maybe imagining or something. "Hey, Blondie, what are you doing here by yourself?" Naruto thought she was another one that hated him, so replied quickly, "Oh, I'm sorry. I will leave if I bothered you." "Oi, I didn't say I was bothered by you. Where is your mind anyway? I asked what you were doing by yourself." Naruto was stumped. Someone actually cared about what he was doing and didn't immediately tell him to leave. "Well, I was just passing time, since no one plays with me, and I don't think I have any friends." The girl raised her eyebrows. "Wait, why don't you have any friends?" Naruto was getting more and more depressed, since of those questions made him realize how far his life was from normal. "Well, I don't anyone likes me here," he said sadly. "Well, I like you." The child's innocence didn't mean to convey any underlying romantic feelings through the sentence. And Naruto didn't even care for the romantic feelings, as he felt tears brimming his eyes. Ino raised her eyebrows again. "So you don't hate me?" "Of course not. I just told you I like you." Ino grinned, seeing the smile on his face. "By the way, the name is Ino." "My name's Naruto. So do you want to play with me tomorrow?" "Of course, why not?" Then Naruto heard the thing that he waited forever to hear. He heard something that he would answer with a yes, without a second's thought. He heard something that finally made him happy that he didn't die on his birthday. He heard Ino asking him the question that he always wanted to be asked. "Will you be my friend?" Chapter 3. I Owe You Everything. Naruto was skipping down the streets like a little girl. The glares that were usually filled with intense desire to inflict pain upon the boy had now turned into a disgusted one to see the boy so happy. One would skip through the streets, with their gender being male, only when their marriage proposal to their dream girl was accepted. While Naruto's case wasn't too far off, since with the friendship with Ino, he now had his first female company of his age. The humming and singing of the boy made many street walkers nearby burn with jealousy, thinking what amazing piece of diamond he must have found lying in a pit of coal that made him so happy. Flashback. Will you be my friend? Ninjas are supposed to be adept at deception, but the star-shaped pupils of Naruto would give away to even the dumbest of ninjas the knowledge that Naruto was flying in the sky in joy at the moment. Yes, yes, yes. He meant to say it once, but the pent-up excitement which was not fully released by his dazzling star-shaped pupils forced him to repeat the same thing thrice and nod at a speed of 5 nods per second. He clenched his fist and raised it to the sky. I made it. I made my first friend. He stood there for a while thinking about all the days he counted to gain a friend, and now what victory speech he should be delivering at his resounding success. He was brought out of his thoughts as he saw the amused expression on Ino's face. He stopped his celebrations to rub the back of his head while smiling sheepishly. One word to describe the situation: awkward. For Naruto, at least, since he probably made the weirdest first impression about himself to his first friend. To break the awkward silence, Ino spoke up. That was some performance you delivered there. I will see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock then. She started walking away and snuck a glance at him before stepping outside the park's gate. Don't be late or else I will tell everyone how pompous your celebration was. The glint of evil in her eyes proved that she meant every word. One didn't need to know about the stars to prophesize that she was going to become the queen of gossip in Konoha. Even though Naruto didn't care much about what others thought about him, he decided it was better for his celebration to stay hidden, considering his reputation as the future Hokage might be on the line. Ino soon went home holding hands with a blonde-haired man who was standing outside the park. Naruto didn't feel the similar pang of jealousy in his heart that he always felt while watching children walking home with their parents. It was because he was giggling like a schoolgirl in happiness. Oh boy, watching Rose from Titanic giggling in happiness while dancing with Jack wasn't a good influence for him. Flashback end. Naruto made it back home without even bothering to notice a single glare or whisper or the amazing puns delivered by the fur ball, since he was too occupied in thoughts of a platinum-haired blonde girl. He chugged down the bowls of instant ramen. Yes, he chugged them down, not gulping or eating them. It was the secret to his sonic speed at finishing ramen. He didn't chew them, he chugged them down. The liquid broth would blast his mouth to give him pleasure unmatched in his experience, and to ordinary people who chewed the food would be left stunned, since not even the Sharingan was capable of detecting his movements when he was eating ramen. He lied down in his bed since he was hoping to dream about a certain girl before he went off shopping with his old man in the morning. The chilly wind rushing in through the multiple broken spots in the window didn't bother him much. He slept through the night with the widest and stupidest smile he could muster. The next morning he woke up and quickly ate the date-expired breakfast he had lying around his fridge. His tenant helped him survive countless potential episodes of dysentery. Not that he wanted to rely on his luck to eat rotten food. No, even he hated the taste of rotten food. It was just that he was never sold fresh food by any of the shop owners. Naruto finished his breakfast, although really slowly since he didn't want the taste of rotten food to blast his mouth like his sacred ramen is allowed to. After the breakfast, he took a shower. It was really rare for him to take showers, especially early in the morning, but today his Gigi was about to take him shopping, so he had to make himself presentable. He put on his shorts and a white t-shirt that had the Uzumaki swirl in the back. He started skipping through the streets just like last time, and the glares directed at him were rudely ignored. He reached the Hokage Tower by 7:45 and barged in through the Hokage's door. Ohio Hokage Gigi. It was clear to the Hokage that Naruto was more than excited as he saw the wide smile on his face. The Hokage, knowing Naruto, knew early when he was acting and when he wasn't. He was quite sure that the excitement in his eyes at the moment was definitely true, added with the fact that he arrived 15 minutes early, even though he has a habit of showing up late to everything. Ohio Naruto-kun. You seem really happy today. He knew there was more to it than just their shopping trip today that made him so happy. He squinted his eyes as if he was reading Naruto's movements and expressions with his non-existent Sharingan. The Hokage had to know a bit of face reading to hold a bit of knowledge of what his interrogation department was capable of. He immediately deduced from Naruto's face the reason why he was so happy. Well, it would have been a lot harder had Naruto been wearing his invisible mask of happiness. But without it, the Hokage easily read his face. So it's a girl, isn't it? Naruto stood there, dumbstruck, his jaws hanging inches above the floor, his eyes big round as egg yolks. The Hokage couldn't but chuckle at his reaction, and the four laughs that came from the walls let him know that the Umbus found it amusing too. After having minutes to recover from the shock, Naruto tried to act as if he didn't just stand in the room with his jaws on the floor for a good minute. How did you do that, Gigi? And yes, I was about to tell you, I made my first friend. And guess what? She is really pretty too. The man was happy to see his surrogate grandson, so happy. He was happy that he finally found a friend. And when Naruto had said that the girl was pretty, the old man had one thought in his mind. Boy, you work fast. You can't keep a regular Ika reader from imagining about a potential romantic relationship, no matter how remote the chances are. All right, Naruto-kun, since you came early, why not get started on the shopping trip? The nod was enough for a reply from Naruto. They started heading through the busy streets of Konoha in their pursuit of scrolls and clothings which were meant as a part of a surprise gift for Naruto. But the bigger surprise was still waiting for Naruto. The first stop was the library. Naruto nervously entered the library to see the earlier librarian replaced, as stated by the Hokage before. They walked in, Naruto amazed at how amazing the library looked. He only had a few books with him, but in the library there were thousands. He could stay there forever and learn about things, even though he hated reading. They went to the shinobi section. Even though Naruto wasn't a shinobi, the Hokage had the authority to let him enter the section, and since there weren't many people around, he wouldn't have to deal with civilian council bullshit. Naruto picked up a book on chakra control exercises and chakra molding. The Hokage was amazed to see his choice, because it would nearly be impossible for a kid like Naruto to identify the excess chakra in his system and decide to do chakra control exercises. Unknown to him was that Naruto had 1,000 years of experience stored in the fellow fur ball to make a few decisions for him. He then went on to choose a taijutsu scroll when the Hokage stopped him. Naruto-kun, you needn't choose that one. I have something waiting for you. Oh, Naruto was deeply engaged in thinking what might be waiting for him, to even give a proper reply. By the way, I think you would like this book on chakra detection. It would refine your detection skills to a next level. Naruto's super amazed star-shaped eyes have away the fact that he was already imagining how he was going to be the strongest shinobi with his detection skills. The next stop was the clothing store from where he bought a pair of shorts and white t-shirts, and the Hokage gifted him some gravity seals, which according to the Hokage, would help him train in the future. He then went to a bookstore to buy a book on history of shinobi. And finally, he ended up in the Hokage's office. With a wave of the Hokage's hand, Naruto felt 4 well-hidden members leave the room. The Hokage was once again impressed to see Naruto being able to easily follow the Umbu's movements. The Hokage raised his fingers to form a hand seal that sealed sound, light, and any information from leaving the room. Naruto saw the Hokage's face and knew already that he meant business. This scroll here is the taijutsu style that the Yondaime Hokage used and tweaked to allow another kunoichi with reactions as extreme as yours to use the style effectively. Considering your flexibility, reactions in combat, and your agility, this would be the perfect style for you. This time Naruto smiled, but with his mask in place. The Hokage wasn't able to see through his fake display of excitement, as he said, "Why am I receiving the fourth, and that kunoichi's taijutsu style anyway? It's because you rightfully deserve it. I am sorry I cannot go into any further details about this." Naruto nodded understandingly. So what, the fourth left me a scroll? I still have to deal with hell myself. He wasn't ready to forgive the fourth until he finds out why he was chosen for the burden. But he was still happy that he was at least left with a medium of self-defense. The Hokage's taijutsu style was nothing to be taken lightly. After hours of shopping, he was mentally tired, not physically with his insane stamina. But he had to clean up and get ready for the most exciting thing in his life till now. The excitement he felt while being chased by countless Umbus after his pranks were nothing compared to what he was feeling at the moment. He had 2 hours to get rested, 3 more hours to eat lunch, read some of those books, and then make himself presentable in front of his first friend. After hours of criticizing his own sense of style and dealing with smart puns of the fur ball, he finally settled on wearing his shorts and white t-shirt. It was looking bad. He was picking up the girly habits from movies he saw, and indecisiveness in his choice of clothing was one of his habits that he picked up. He combed his spiky hair, which did nothing but spike up the hair just like before. Soon enough, he was doing his victory pose in front of the mirror, ignoring all the jabs that the fur ball made at his gender ambiguity. He was skipping down the streets again. It was almost getting to the point of an eyesore to even those few that didn't hate him. He reached the playground at 3:45, once again early, due to his excitement and fear of what the future gossip queen might do to his reputation as the future Hokage. Looking around for a while, he found himself staring at the girl he was just thinking about. Hi, Ino-san. He completely ignored the pink-haired girl that was with her. Hi, Naruto. She saw that her friend was looking at him with disgust. Oi, forehead, what's that look about? She then snuck a glance at Naruto to see him looking down, avoiding the gaze from Sakura. And Naruto, this is my friend Forehead. You can call her Sakura. Hello, Sakura-san. Naruto was growing more and more nervous. Then Sakura just snickered at him. Pig, so this is the new friend you were talking about? I don't want to play with him. My mom told me not to play with him. He is bad news. Naruto slumped his shoulders in defeat. He just probably lost his new friend. But then he heard a large shout from Ino. Shut up, Forehead. Ino was royally pissed. My mom said that too, but does it matter? He didn't do anything bad to us. And he doesn't have any friends, so I am playing with him whether you join or not. Sakura felt insulted that she wasn't treated as a royalty, and instead Naruto was preferred to be a better company than her to Ino. She left the park, making the ground shake with each of her steps. Ino looked at Naruto and saw him look down. Oi, now what's up with you? Guilt was clearly plastered across his face. I am sorry. I just made you lose your friend. You don't need to worry about that. It wasn't your fault. Even though she has a large brain in her large forehead, she is just stupid to hate someone without a reason. Naruto was chuckled at the joke while the fox in him was rolling on the floor while laughing. I think I like this girl. She got some funny jokes. Then Kurama heard Naruto growl to him. Oh, I see. Is someone jealous cause I said I like the girl? Naruto just grumbled in annoyance as he opened his eyes to let the sunlight enter his eyes. The world was shaking. The trees and ground were suddenly flying up to the sky and down to ground. After regaining a bit of more of his senses, he realized Ino was shaking him by his shoulders until she stopped to see him open his eyes. She sighed in relief. Oi, what were you dreaming about? Oh, no, I wasn't dreaming. I just have a habit of zoning out sometimes. She nodded understandingly. All right, then let's go play hide and seek. All right. She was about to run off to hide in safety when he said, Thanks for playing with me. After 2 hours of constantly playing hide and seek, she realized something. No one could beat Naruto at the game. Naruto's sensitive smell, hearing, and vision, that even amazed the Hokage, clearly showed why Naruto was the boss at hide and seek. While Ino was pouting like a baby after conceding all the defeats, Naruto had his mouth open to the widest possible smile possible. To most people it would seem weird, but to Ino it was a proof that he valued their friendship. Thanks again. I really enjoyed playing with you. Well, I had fun too. But how did you always find me so easily? Well, you do smell pretty nice. I could smell the lavender scent on you no matter where you went. Ino blushed a little at the compliment. Then it was time for her to be surprised again. The boy could smell her perfume from over hundreds of meters. He was definitely special. But it didn't matter much, because tomorrow the game wasn't going to be one that favors him or his smelling. Yes, tomorrow it will be a change of game to tag. The next day started with Naruto humming to himself, while ignoring all the insults he heard from the fox. Oi, brat. I have been trying to talk to you for the last few hours, so would you listen up? And please stop the humming and skipping for fuck's sake. Oi, fox, why are you trying to curse in front of this innocent boy? You are tainting me with your rudeness. And also I would not like my soft teddy bear to curse. The fox was about to lash out of his cage to beat the crap out of the boy. When he realized his fatal mistake, he formed a mental link with the boy, so the boy was out of his arm's reach. Fuck you and your tiny brain. There you go again, cursing out loud. And it must be a great honor for you to be fooled by a tiny brain. The fox growled. His jailer has surely learned to use his brain, and his insults are also getting smarter by the day. The only thing left to have the perfect host was to have him get stronger and of course to have him stop skipping and humming on the streets. He knew just what to do. I will get you back on this someday. But for now, we have to start your training. You are going to use gravity seals and circle the village. I remember the Hokage bought you a few of those seals. Now put those on. Yo, Furball, so is this gravity seal too heavy? I mean, is it easy to handle? No, of course, it is not heavy at all. It just increases the force of gravity felt throughout the organs in your body that circulates chakra. So basically your whole body will feel the pull of gravity. Go ahead and try it. Form a cross with the fingers of both of your hands. Imagine chakra flowing in a circle throughout the body and then bursting into the seal. I hope you remember the chakra molding lessons we did, right? Naruto was grateful to have 1,000 years of experience teaching him thoroughly on his training. But he failed miserably to notice the glint of evil and mischief in Kurama's eyes, since he was talking through the link. Naruto activated the seal and was happy to see the seal glow up. Thud. The next thing he saw was the green floor that was tightly held against his forehead by force of gravity. And the next thing he heard was the fox rolling and laughing. Huh, serves you right. Think you can fool 1,000 years of experience? Now get your ass off the ground and start running 20 laps around the village, or else I might just circulate some blood into your penis and make it cramp and stick out when you go in front of Ino. It was a training routine that would make even Mato Guy's fountain of youth run dry at that. Naruto paled considerably. Which one was worse? Running 20 laps, or Ino telling everyone that he has a stick dick? Not that he knew the reason why he had the stick dick every morning, but he knew it would be embarrassing either way. He did what he had to do to save his reputation as the future Hokage. Run. He got off and started to take small steps while breathing heavily. He hated life and of course the fox, because now he couldn't skip through the town anymore. Instead, he had to drag his feet on the ground. And his panting breath didn't allow him the chance to hum either. It was hell. Naruto made it. He finished 20 laps by 2 and was about to release the seal and go home, when he realized he didn't know how to release the seal. Oh shit. The fox heard his thoughts loud and clear, and he had a face-splitting grin which Naruto couldn't notice, but was sure would happen. Almighty, Kyuubi, the destroyer of all humans, the symbol of strength. Shall thou be kind enough to allow this meager existence the knowledge on how to release the seal? Kurama was clearly amused. This was interesting. The boy was showing him respect. But as much as he wanted to be kind-hearted, he couldn't forget all the time he was called Furball. Well, that doesn't bother much, since his only wish is to make his host stronger, not just get revenge. I am impressed. I will let you know how to release the seal. Naruto was jumping in joy. The gravity of the seals couldn't stop him from jumping, until he heard 3 more words. After a month. Jumping off of a cliff isn't too bad either. 2 hours later. Naruto was standing in the park, waiting for Ino. She showed up as expected. Today, she had a look that said she was going to make his life hell. Hello, Ino-san. Hello, Naruto. So today are we playing hide and seek again? I remember you were pretty good at it. Naruto was amused to see Ino making the pouting face. But then she gave a mischievous grin. Naruto was paling already, knowing whatever she had in mind wasn't going to be too nice for him. Tag is the game for today. Oh no. Any other day Naruto would have obliterated her in tag, but today with the seals he would die. And the loser by the end would have to bring a flower that the other one would like. Her mother owned a flower shop, so she would have no problem whatsoever getting a flower for Naruto, but she knew Naruto was going to lose badly in terms of choosing a good flower. Something fun is sure to happen. So who's it? Naruto got nothing in reply as he saw Ino running out to the horizon. Didn't matter if she was a girl or not. Naruto was going to win any game. Gravity seals, he couldn't give a shit about. After 1 hour of running, he realized he needed to give a shit about gravity seals, because he was clearly losing her trail, even though he was clearly getting faster at his movements with the seal on. Also, Ino was fast as hell. She was pretty thin, but her muscles weren't used at all. They were pretty developed to allow her fast movements. Naruto was panting heavily. But the future Hokage cannot lose. Ino was standing a few meters ahead of Naruto. So you were pretty slow, I see. You are sure you don't want me to slow down for you? Naruto was done taking insults. All right, time to speed up. He took off the sweater that Kurama made him wear to make him sweat more. He took a long breath to cool off. Ino, on the other hand, was blushing to see the toned body Naruto had, which was sweating profusely to reveal parts of his skin through the drenched white t-shirt. Well, a girl of 8 years was mature enough to recognize an attractive guy, and right now Naruto was on the top of her list. While Ino was admiring his body, she noticed that he had a few tattoos across his body which looked like flowers. Those were gravity seals. Inoichi Yamanka, her father taught her a little about them, and she remembered clearly that those were meant for training. Oi, Naruto, is that a gravity seal? Oh, this. Yes. Did you run after me all this time with that on? Yes. Are you stupid? Why don't you take them off? Well, I could be training and playing at the same time, and I kinda don't know how to take the seal off. Ino giggled at his stupidity. Ino knew this was the opportunity. She started to run again, because Naruto might get faster the longer he stays with the seal. But then again, there was the function in gravity, which increased the gravity multiplying factor up by a level the longer the user got used to it. But she didn't want to risk him getting near her before the gravity level increased. She ran off and saw Naruto follow, and to her amusement, Naruto fell face first onto the ground. She could swear she heard him saying something like "screw you furball" or something. After another hour of chasing around, Naruto fell again on the ground to get used to the increased gravity. He was panting heavily knowing he lost. He saw Ino sitting down right next to his ground-ridden body. So I guess you owe me a flower that I might like. Oh, huff, huff. Huff, we'll get it tomorrow. All right, thanks. So sweet of you. Naruto rolled his eyes. He has already gone through hell with Furball's jokes, and now Ino's innocent and sweet tone added to his sufferings. All right then, I will see you tomorrow. Take some rest here and then go home. And one thing, your whisker marks look pretty cute, you know? She giggled to see Naruto's face turn a bit red. Maybe he was never complimented by a girl before. Naruto watched as Ino walked out of the park with her father, and then he fell asleep in peace. He woke up after evening to find out all the fatigue in his body gone, and his arms and legs feeling much stronger and lighter. The gravity seal was working really well. Whenever he moved with the excessive gravity, many of his muscle cells that were overused were later repaired and reformed to allow more cells to grow, and he knew Kurama was doing a good job to keep his body fit. All he needed now was his body to be filled with bowls after bowls of ramen from Ichiraku. The night went off without any event of note, just his regular night of freezing and cold from the broken windows, and the heater that blew cold air, and the blankets that were torn in almost every possible place. But then again, the peaceful smile on his face was something he recently mustered that shielded him from all of his problems. He scratched his whisker marks, and it tickled like hell. Even though his whisker marks allowed most people to easily target him on his birthday, it was something that was cute according to Ino, so he was happy it was there. His thoughts, just like the 2 other nights, ended with Ino coming to his dreams. Ino was holding 2 bowls of ramen in her hands. Naruto-kun, would you eat this ramen? I made it just for you, she said shyly. Naruto didn't notice the drool running down his face, but he knew he looked as if he was about to submit to this. He steeled himself upright. Why, furball, what do you take me for? Ino-chan bringing me the food of the gods, and then also calling me Naruto-kun? It's too good to be true. Kurama appeared in a cage nearby, with pride in his face. Good job, brat. You saw through the genjutsu pretty well. Otherwise you would have had to eat an explode dash. He couldn't finish his sentence as he heard a boom. He facepalmed himself. He was about to praise Naruto for seeing through the deception, but right now Naruto was on the floor with a kunai in his mouth and ash on his face, since he jumped to dive his face into the explosive kunai disguised as ramen. Fuck my life, please. Why did the 4th have to be so cruel to seal me in you? Kurama wiped off a few drops of non-existent tears from his face, after reminiscing the good days he spent in other intelligent hosts he had been sealed in. Boy, you gotta teach me that jutsu. No one can ever resist diving into ramen, and I could get anyone with it. He had stars in his eyes, wondering how many S-class shinobis he would defeat with this jutsu. Screw this. Well, Brat, I don't think there's anyone as dumb as you in the shinobi world to fall for that dash. He stopped as he saw a rabbit near him and immediately used his huge jaws to crush through the rabbit's skin, only to realize that the rabbit was a projection and a few of his teeth were now broken from tooth-to-tooth collision. Oh, look who was talking. The amused grin on Naruto's face meant that he was, well, amused. When the hell did you learn to do that genjutsu? I never learned to do the genjutsu. If I knew, I wouldn't be asking you for help, duh. Well then, how did you do it? The fox knew. He already looked stupid to Naruto. This is my mindscape, remember? Then it clicked in the fox's head that Naruto could imagine whatever he wanted, and it would become real in the mindscape. Well then, I must say you did a good job. And I cannot teach you genjutsu because you have really bad chakra control. You barely managed to mold chakra so far, and your chakra reserves are too high to be controlled for genjutsu. But for now, let's continue the taijutsu training you were doing with my chakra-formed body. Well, I was wondering, does doing taijutsu help my body in any way? I mean, I am training in mind, so I am not going to get stronger. You are correct. But training in mindscape, you will train 10 to 20 times more, since your imagination works faster than reality. You are going to get battle experience from here. You are going to be able to refine your reactions, techniques, and body movements in here. And the gravity seals are already making your body stronger in the real world. So, if you keep practicing here, you will get stronger than even many academy graduates by the time you get to the academy. That's good to hear. I'm so excited. Let's start with the torture session already. The sarcasm in his voice only added to the fox's enthusiasm. 8 o'clock in the morning. All right, Fuzzy Tails, what do you want me to do now? I really like the new name you got for me. So why don't you do 40 laps today? Oh, finish it fast, or else not only will you have not time to pick flowers for Ino, but you will also have to show off your stick dick to your friend. Thanks for motivating me. I hope to please your demands, Your Highness. You are a really nice servant, the fox said while laughing, ignoring all the things Naruto was muttering under his breath. Later that day, Yo Brat, get up from the ground. You only got less than 45 minutes to eat and clean up and then pick a flower. Naruto got up, and he started moving at such insane speed. It seemed as if he had opened all 8 of his inner gates. Within 15 minutes, he was done taking shower and cleaning up. He picked up the bowl of ramen that was boiling during that time period and chugged it down. He just had to bring the flowers now. He knew which flower he was going to choose. He was up in the mountains. He looked for those flowers, purple, pink, grows in bunches, and has a great smell. Naruto was a plant and flower addict. He knew meaning of different plants and flowers and even tried to grow many in his apartments. He would have opened a shop like the Yamanaka flower shop had it not been for the villagers stoning and breaking every single one of his flower pots every year. After minutes of smelling for the flower, he found it. The flower was really special to him because he read that the flower symbolizes love and someone who holds others together with love. The flower bunched together represented a family which loved each of its members. Whenever he would go to hide in the mountains, he would pick one of those flowers. He picked a bunch of those flowers and got off again. 15 minutes later, he reached the ground, but weirdly enough, he couldn't smell the usual lavender scent he could smell on Ino. He was just 5 minutes late, so there was no way her scent was going to be erased so fast. He focused on his hearings, and nowhere could he hear her gossiping. He was getting a bit anxious. Maybe she was playing a prank, right? She wouldn't leave him after just playing for 2 days. He wanted to play more. He had to give her the flower. He had to tell her the stories of how he was going to be Hokage. He didn't want to think of any negative thoughts, but after years of experiencing hell, the only thing he could think of was that she left him. While to most people, not playing for 1 day may seem really normal. But for Naruto, these were the very first times he enjoyed life, and he couldn't but think that her absence was to avoid him. He began running off outside the park, going to every place he could think of Ino being at. She could be at her home, with her friends, or anything. He just needed to be sure that she wasn't in the park for no reason. He went to Yamanaka clan compound, to the academy, to the civilian roads, but no sign of her. He wanted to ask her mother, but her mother just shut the shop's door at his face. But then he found Inoichi, who told him that Ino left a long time ago. Done. Naruto started sweating. He began panicking, thinking someone might have hurt her because of him. That's what happened to Ichiraku's old man, who was often insulted for feeding the demon. Before Inoichi could tell him anything to calm him down, he was gone in a blink. He kept running and running all around the city. Inoichi, on the other hand, formed a search party too. But he couldn't make the search party too big, since they didn't know if she was attacked or anything. He only asked his teammates to come along. Chuja, even though immersed in eating food, responded to his plea for help. And Shikaku, even though the situation was troublesome, came forward to help his teammates. The three spread out in 3 different directions after instructing their children to come forward to help. After minutes of running, Naruto caught a smell. He had followed all the tracks that smelled of Ino, which emerged from her house. This was the 6th track he was following. It went near the 3rd training ground. It had the strongest trace of her scent. But what was more alarming was the fact that he could smell blood and more than 3 other men. Naruto's lack of knowledge in human sexual relationship allowed him the peace of not thinking it was a case of forced sex. Naruto managed to locate their exact location, and he jumped near the spot. He was horrified to see 3 men surrounding her. And what made him more anxious was Ino's current state. She had blood leaking out and bruises. Thankfully, she was not hurt anywhere else, as she licked the blood trickling down her lips, and the bruise from a few slaps were easy to remove with medical care. The defiant look in her eyes showed she strictly protested whatever the 3 men wanted. The 3 men, according to Naruto's deduction, were Genins, aged near 15. Oi, Yamanaka brat, I'm telling you, we are not going to do anything else to you if you stop hanging out with that demon. Naruto knew it all happened because of him. He shouldn't have played with her. He just put her at risk for his own satisfaction. Screw you and your tiny brains. I don't think he did anything to be called a demon. Alright, I've had enough. You know how much I would like to have fun with you and teach you some manners. He was about to move it to touch her body before he heard the leaves rustle. The boy who was the closest to touching Ino fell down on the floor. All 3 of them turned back to look at the silhouette of the blonde boy, who seemed like the demon they described him to be. Red eyes, black aura emanating from the body. Naruto at the moment wanted to kill them. He would have done so at the very first second, had they not been a Konoha ninja. But all the years of hatred towards the villagers that was bottled in him broke through. Ino and his Hokage Gigi's companion kept him from reminiscing the memories from his birthday. But someone now dared to hurt his friend. They weren't happy with just torturing him. His killing intent spiked earlier to get the 3 Genins to drop down to their knees. But Naruto didn't know how to control his killing intent to overpower his enemies. So he would have to fight hand on hand. Kurama, release my seal right now. The fox knew not to argue with the boy. To be honest, he wanted to see those Genins ripped apart, since they were about to hurt Naruto's first friend. Form the rat seal and say release, while sending a burst of chakra to mess up the smooth flow of chakra in the seal. Naruto did as he was told, and he felt the overwhelming change. He tried moving his body, which seemed to have gained new lightness and speed. He then looked up to the 3 Genins, who were trembling in fear. One of them tried to throw a kunai at him. He dodged it with his fast reactions, and with insane speed he reached behind the Genin that threw him a kunai. The Genin barely managed to follow his movements, and saw him appear behind him and was about to punch him in the face. The Genin brought up his arms to stop the punch. Naruto's new taijutsu style allowed for a lot of feints and false movements to read and counteract opponents' movements. Naruto's punch to his face was a feint, as he brought his knee up to strike the Genin in the stomach. The other 2 saw the first Genin fall to the ground. One of the 2 came out to strike him with a kunai, but failed miserably, as Naruto dodged the first attack, making the Genin lose balance and tumble forward. And then Naruto raised his leg higher than the tumbling body of the Genin, and then he brought his leg down fast enough to make the ground shake from the collision of the ground and the Genin, who now had a broken rib. The other Genin now was standing next to Ino, with a kunai trembling in his hand right next to Ino's throat. Get down on your knees. Put your hands up behind your head. As soon as he did, the Genin threw the kunai at his stomach. The Genin hated the Kyuubi with all his might for killing his father, but he didn't want to be jailed at this age for murder. So he aimed only to disable the demon boy. Naruto fell limp onto the ground from the hit. Ino's eyes went wide. Naruto. The tears from her eyes broke out without any stopping. Then the Genin turned towards her. See? This is what happens when a civilian tries to go against a ninja. Remember Yamanaka? If I ever see you walk around with that dim dash, he couldn't finish since he was on the ground, with his head in a headlock. What did you think? I took more kunai hits in a day than the amount of people you might ever hit with your kunai. A small blow doesn't even sting. Then he took a look at Ino, who was now shouting for Naruto to kick his ass in joy. But he took a closer look and saw the blood leaking from her lips and the bruise marks from the slaps. So you were the one who hurt Ino-san, right? The Jinin didn't need to answer as he heard his elbow snap. Now try laying even a finger on Ino-san, and next time you won't leave alive. The Jinin fell unconscious. Oyambu-san, stop following me and take those 3 idiots to the hospital already. Soon an Umbu with a boar mask came into clearing and took those 3, one of which was carried by his solid clone, and left for the hospital. Ino, on the other hand, was amazed at how skilled Naruto was at both detection and taijutsu. Naruto, that was awesome. You really kicked their asses. She expected him to yell in joy at his victory, but he saw tears in his eyes. I am sorry, I am so sorry. All of this happened to you because of me. No, you didn't beat me up. They were the ones that beat me up. But if I hadn't been your friend, then they wouldn't have done that. No, Baka. They beat me because I didn't want to listen to them. I wanted to be friends with you whether they like it or not. Besides, you saved me, like in those films, you know? She was stunned to see him hug her tightly before crying out loud. Thank you so much. You don't know how much it means to me. When I couldn't find you, I thought you didn't want to be friends with me anymore. I couldn't even think of losing my first friend. You don't know how happy it made me that you still want to be my friend. Yup. No way I'm losing you. You are not like that Sakura forehead girl. You actually seem to care about me. Then she remembered something. Naruto, you were hit by a kunai. We need to go to the hospital. Naruto seemed reluctant to let go off the hug. It's all right. I heal quicker than most people. Part of the reason they call me demon. So I don't even have to go to the hospital for minor cuts like this. She was impressed with his capabilities, but was sad that the villagers called him demon. At this moment, they were lying on the ground hugging each other. So, Naruto, you really like to hug me, don't you? She had the perfect gossip material for the future, if she ever finds out about Naruto's friends or family in the future. Yup, I never hugged anyone in my life, so hugging my first friend makes me really happy. I kinda like it a lot. Ino was happy that she made him so happy, but sad at the fact that Naruto didn't even have someone to hug before. She wouldn't have many of his friends and family members to gossip to. Wait, his family members, she didn't know about them. Even though Naruto knew everything her friends knew about Inoichi Yamanaka and Inoka Yamanaka. She even told Naruto about her uncle Yashinoki Yamanaka, who was killed on the day of Kyuubi's attack. So what about your family? You never told me about them. I don't have a family. I grew up in an orphanage before they threw me out. Even in the orphanage, I never made any friends. That's why I was so happy when you wanted to be my friend. If Ino was the Hokage, the orphanage would have been obliterated by now for throwing out Naruto. But she decided to lighten the mood a bit now. All right, now that I am your first friend, you have to listen to what I say. A nod from Naruto's head allowed her to make her demand. All right, I will call you Naruto-kun from now on, and you will call me Ino-chan. Really? You mean how the couples sometimes call each other in the movies? Ino blushed at the thought. Well, yeah, pretty close, as close friends. Oh yeah, by the way, Ino-chan, I got these flowers for you. He took out the branch of bush clover he plucked from the mountains. Remember? We made the challenge. Really? Are these bush clovers? I really like them. My dad used to tell me our clan members should be like this flower, so I really like these flowers. How did you know I would like them? Well, I didn't know if you would like them or not. It's just that you are a lot like the flower. I read about them, that the flower symbolizes love and care for others and family. You are caring and really nice to others from what I know. And also the pink of the flower matches your lips and the color of your cheeks. Naruto brought his head a little back from the hug to take a deep look at her face. Well, maybe not now. Your cheeks right now are really red. Thanks. By the way, I wanted to ask, how do you know all those ass-kicking moves? Naruto took a breath. The future of this village rests in the hands of the Hokage, and since I am going to be the future Hokage, I had to learn to fight. I am training to be the best when I go to the academy next year. Really? You want to be the future Hokage? Well, I'll help you then. I want to be the strongest kunoichi to protect the village. I will also go into the academy next year, so I will get to see you there every day. Yay! Yay! After 5 more minutes of lying in each other's arms while hugging in the slowly blowing breeze, the sun started to set in the horizon with a crimson glow. I guess it's time to go. I think I might have worried your dad a little. I think too. Oh, by the way, don't you ever dare to think that I will leave this friendship, ever. The stars glowing in her eyes, with the cheesy line, made it arguably the cheesiest scene in the fanfic so far. Yup. They let go off their hugs and got up as if they had a nice bonding time. Had they been adults, their minds would have been swarmed by contents of Ika paradise by now. But their innocence made this contact seem to be an everlasting memory of their friendship. They got up and went off towards the Yamaka clan's compound. He saw her mom staring at him in shock to see him with Ino. He wasn't bothered much by her glare. Then something happened that widened her eyes. Ino went back to Naruto and hugged him before going back to the door. Her mom was glaring daggers at Naruto. I owe for saving me today, Naruto. He saw the door close with a thud, as the last person entering through the door was the mom. However, Naruto was glad again that Kurama kept him alive through all his suicide attempts, so that he got to experience this day. Ino-chan, you think owe me for saving you? You saved me from loneliness from all these years. You made me the happiest I have ever felt. I owe you everything. Chapter 4. Who are you? The fox was living in a nightmare as the blonde boy was living in his dream world. The fox didn't expect Naruto to adjust to the additional gravity of the gravity seals as fast as he did. Normally, he would be proud of the boy's achievement, but right now he wasn't marching in victory, but rather going through, in terms of the fox, the walk of shame. It wasn't a walk by any means, but it was shameful to other ordinary humans he used to know and now wished to be jailed in rather than the blonde. Yup, Naruto was doing his trademark, skipping through the streets while humming move. The fox didn't want to hurt his tenant's feelings or ruin the mood for him, but it was too painful to hear his high-pitched humming, and seeing the world shake up and down through the mind link certainly didn't comfort him. Well, everything has to come to an end. The fox slapped his paws together. The shock wave from slap split the water puddles in front of him. Had the blonde been inside this mindscape, his body would have ripped to shreds from the palm's shockwave. But to merely crack a few walls in this mindscape wouldn't be enough to stop the blonde's dangerously precise pattern of movement right now. Naruto took each of his steps with grace. After every step, he would make a precise jump with the toe and land on his other feet, and with a step he would hop again. His fluid movements held the resemblance to that of a ballet dancer. He kept skipping forward in his path of life until he heard through his mindscape, seal activate, and then thud. The fox didn't mind spending some chakra healing the red Akimichi clan look-alike face that Naruto had developed after his hasty moment of intimacy with the solid concrete. The position of intimacy was bound strongly due to the added force of the recently activated gravity seals. Oi brat, your Ino isn't in the concrete, so stop kissing it already. The annoyed grumble coming from the boy was payment enough for the misery his host put him through while skipping and humming. But it wasn't done with him. He wanted more for payback. Maybe your intimacy with the concrete was bound by the laws of nature. The fox's stomach emptied out as he blew out an enormous amount of air with his roar of laughter as he rolled on the floor. Naruto held his head in his hands in pain, not from the collision with the concrete, but from the pain of hearing a painfully bad joke. He wasn't concerned about the fact that his face was red from pain from the intimacy with the concrete floor that was caused by the laws of nature, gravity. He was more concerned that the mightiest of bijus only had the ability to come up with a joke of that level. He realized now, Kyuubi could destroy someone's brain cells with means other than using chakra. Yes, his jokes were dangerous on a whole another level. He was brought out of his thoughts as he saw people whisper and glare at him, and some actually happy to see his swollen face. Freaking villagers, you better be grateful I am saving you from Kyuubi's wrath and his jokes. After dusting himself, he realized something. The fox actually activated the seal, not him. Oi, furball, how did you activate the seal? To affect my chakra, doesn't the seal need to be provided with only my chakra? The fox stopped his rolling to make a serious face to answer his question. Brat, remember what you learned about seals? Seriously, you need to pay more attention to your lessons on seals. You could actually become a pretty good fighter with seals if you try. How can someone fight with seals? Well, just a few moments ago, I used my chakra to activate the gravity seal on you. If you train enough, you too could do it and make people drop to the ground in an instant. Oi, then why don't the others do it too? First of all, the seals are very complicated if you try to do it fast, and also you need a vast amount of chakra. Only one clan's members met both of these requirements. The fox kept rubbing his cheek for a while before saying, "Damn it, I can't seem to remember the name of the clan." More like, whenever I remember the name, my head blanks out. All I could remember are Yusumari, Zamani, Makizu, or something. Probably the doing of my previous Jinchuriki. Well then, how am I qualified to do those seals then, when you don't even know much about it? Well, you have abnormally high chakra reserves like my first container in Konoha. She used to know about a lot of seals. So I too know a lot about those seals. So I could teach them to you. And you can use your huge chakra reserve to put those seals on others fast and easily. Yeah, I guess. By the way, when are you going to teach me that awesome jutsu that could help me train faster and make my own army and fight? Oh, you mean the Kage Bunshin jutsu? Bunshin, or whatever. Yeah, that clone thingy. Yeah, I will teach you that only after you have precise chakra control. Oi, just teach it to me now, because it would take me ages to get good chakra control anyway. That's exactly why. I don't want you to learn a new jutsu before you are good at chakra control. Plus, there's not much ninjutsu you can do with your clones unless you have good control. Naruto kept whining for a while, until he stopped, his face forming a smile more feral than the Shinigami captain of Squad 11, Kenpachi Zaraki. His eyes were now covered in the shadow from the bangs of hair hanging down. His low chuckles began to worry the Kyuubi, and then he began to laugh with full force in front of his door, with a glint of insanity in his eyes. Oi, furball, I will master both within the next week. Maybe he was a bit too harsh on the boy. Maybe his jokes were truly unbearable to him, and instead of those jokes strengthening his mind's resolve to survive through harsh conditions, the jokes actually made him lose his mind. And it was all the fault of the Kyuubi. He felt guilty in his heart. He should have considered the boy's low intelligence as a sign that he wasn't ready to bear the harsh training regiment, listening to his puns and jokes at the same time while training. I am sorry, boy. I shouldn't have been so harsh with you, even after knowing you are so dumb. The fox wiped an invisible drop of tear and sadness. My furball, stop. I'm getting serious. I was also about to tell you about the speech I was going to deliver after I master both the jutsu and the control exercises within the next week, he said while pouting like a baby. The fox merely face-palmed at the boy's stupidity. Why, brat, how many times did I tell you I'm not teaching you the jutsu before you have good control? And also it would take more than a few months. That's why I told you to teach me the jutsu right now, so that I could finish the control exercises right now. Brat, have you lost all your brain cells, or are you trying to get me annoyed? Boy, remember how you told me that I could spar with myself and train my taijutsu using that jutsu? Yeah. And remember you told me that I would gain information of what was wrong with my taijutsu stance, and also I would gain fighting experience from both myself and the clone? Yeah. And remember you told me that I do not need good control to make the clone. I only need large amount of chakra, which I already have. Yeah, what are you getting at? After a few moments, it clicked in his mind. I get it. So you want to create clones and do the chakra exercises, so it could speed up your progress? Not a bad idea, Gaki. I knew one day you would get smart enough to understand my plans. He was clutching his hands near his heart, as if he couldn't contain the happiness from seeing a few signs of intelligence radiating from the fox. The fox, on the other hand, had gained a few tick marks on its orange furry forehead, but let it slide since he had already tortured Naruto enough for the day. He was brought out of his thoughts as Naruto started speaking again. By the way, how come you didn't teach me this awesome jutsu earlier? My knowledge of the jutsu was sealed up. From what I can understand, the seal is getting weaker, or something is allowing the memory seal in my head to get weaker. Anyway, remember those scrolls about Ninja Academy in Konoha? You have to do 3 basic jutsus, the Henge and Bunshin. I know you don't have enough control to do the Bunshin. So when I tried to search for alternatives, I remembered the Kage Bunshin, the solid shadow clone technique. And also watching that one-eyed silver-haired ninja do that technique helped me clear my memories. The fox's eyes went wide in realization. It is a forbidden jutsu, so you need to come up with a good excuse to cover it up in front of the Hokage. Wait, I could just tell him I learned it from you. The fox face-bombed. His host probably stores all his brain cells to be used really well for one instance, and then seal them up again, like those super moves that you can do once in a while. Remember what we talked about last time? The Hokage, no matter how nice, will have to take measures if he suspects you are being controlled by me. Oi, that would be bad, really bad. The fox nodded, as Naruto understood him correctly. Being controlled by a fuzzy tail with the worst jokes can mean disaster for the village. As the future Hokage, I will stop this calamity from happening in Konoha. The shining orbs in his eyes reflected determination that was brighter than Might Guy's toothy smile. Not again, you shitty brat. Now that I think about it, you could force the silver-haired ninja to show you or teach you the jutsu. He doesn't need to go in details, because I could teach you in details. But you have to somehow make him teach it to you. Yup, thanks Furball. I know something that he would give his life for. The fox wasn't really focused on listening to his plans as his eyebrows kept twitching. Oi, stop switching my names. Either call me Furball or Fuzzytails, not both. I see you like that name. Naruto's creepy wink even grossed out Kami. Both of them are cancerous, but still I would rather have one form of cancer than two. Well, too bad. I will have to call you both, since you call me Brad and Gaki at the same time. The fox decided not to argue. He was in charge of Naruto's training regiment tomorrow, and also he could give Naruto motivation to fulfill his suicide training regimen on grounds of not getting a chakra-enhanced stick dick in front of Ino. Boy, he was going to regret troubling the mightiest of the Bijou. Oh, also he had his awesome jokes to add salt to the wound. It had been a minute since Naruto had been standing outside the door. Communicating through the mind link was not as fast as doing it in the mindscape, but it was still fast enough to do a 10-minute worth of talk in 1 minute. Naruto was starting to freeze a little in the cold breeze, so he turned the doorknob, which granted him entrance to his room. The optimism nowadays in his mind after meeting Ino allowed him to ignore the freezing water in the shower, the heater that blew air colder than AC, the window that had more holes than a fishnet, and the bed that seemed to have experienced many bone-fracturing blows. He fell on his back on the bed and fell asleep, looking forward to waking up to another day of his newfound happiness. In the morning. Oi Furball, good morning. Nice and shine ma boi. So are you ready for the training? Naruto narrowed his eyes in suspicion, but decided that the fox was going to respect him at last, or was at least being sarcastic. But the glint of evil in Kurama's eyes, unknown to Naruto, meant that Naruto was going to severely enjoy the day. Yup, I'm always ready, let's go to train. He decided to skip on breakfast to finish the training faster and eat ramen for lunch. Nearly 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Naruto was groaning in pain as he got off the ground. Naruto was extremely dizzy and lightheaded right now, and completely oblivious of a fox rolling in his head in a fit of laughter watching his host suffer terribly. After a while, Naruto got sober enough to use his apparently costly brain. According to Kurama, Naruto's brain would fetch a high price in the market if sold, because it is completely unused and new. Damn it, and the creator of Kage Bunshin to hell. Naruto was unaware of the side effects of dispelling too many Kage Bunshins at once, and the fox was barely containing his laughter and thoughts of how his host would suffer after dispelling the clones, so he waited for the grand moment. Naruto dispelled all 200 of his clones at once with a smile on his face, since he would be gaining the knowledge of training for 200 times more than what he did. But the word Kai came out of his mouth, followed by thousands of poofs, and then the screams of Naruto, and in his mind the howling laughter of the fox. Kage Bunshins are a pain in the ass, quite literally from what Naruto experienced in the morning. Flashback. 8 a.m. in the morning. Oi, Gaki, so what's your plan to getting the technique from the silver-haired ninja? Maybe if you had listened yesterday it would have been better. Well, for now, let's keep it a secret. You will see the show when it starts. The fox immediately knew with his sixth sense that something bad was going to happen. Few minutes later, outside the Hokage's office, a silver-haired jounin was walking through the streets, his left eye covered by his headband, while his hair flying off to the moon. People nearby, mostly the ladies, were gaining tick marks as they passed by the jounin, since the perverted giggles and the orange book titled Ika Paradise in his hands didn't please the female population. The killing intent radiating from each of those ladies in the street would have easily subdued someone of a weaker heart, but being in the front lines during the Third Shinobi War steeled this man's resolve. He didn't back down to fear. Truly a man worthy of an S-rank bounty in the bingo book. He was walking through the streets peacefully, his pollen sprayed into the moist pink sakura flower petal balm. He couldn't finish his reading, as he was on the floor scratching his head, wondering how he didn't notice the presence of a boy with so many books coming up to him. I am really sorry. I got lost in thoughts of my path of life to even notice my surrounding. I can help you pick up those books. Thank you. I am in a hurry, so see you later. Naruto left running with his stack of books. Meanwhile, Kakashi saw the boy vanish into the corner of a street. He looked down and opened his book again. These things won't bite you. They just want to have fun. Then came out Thing 2 and Thing 1. What the fuck am I reading? He slowly closed his book to look at the orange cover which said in bold letters, Thing 1 and Thing 2 by. Then he realized the boy smuggled his Ika Paradise into his collection after he intentionally fell. Gaki, I ignored your pranks before, but now you just made it personal. On some training ground. Gaki, you really think that lazy Cyclops gonna follow you here? Just for that book? Oh, I know he will. He has to. Flashback within flashback. A 6-year-old Naruto was standing near the Hokage's desk, being lectured for his pranks, while tied up. Naruto, you shouldn't be doing things like th dash. The Hokage couldn't finish as he was cut off by a silver-haired jounin who just entered the room. Reporting in Kakashi Hitaki. The mission to Suna was a success. The target has been successfully assassinated. Here's the report, he said while handing the file to Hokage. As soon as the Hokage began reading the report, the jounin took out the orange book from his vest. The Hokage's eyes widened at this. His hands were trembling, his eyes widened in shock. He slowly raised his finger to point at his book. Is that the latest volume of Ika Makeout Tactics that haven't even been published yet? How did you get it? The jounin did his trademark eye smile. I must thank you for assigning me to the mission. I just happened to cross by your student Jiraiya-sama, who was on his way to the ruins of Yuzushiogakure. It is mentioned in the report. Anyway, he gave me this copy of the book as a thank you gift for taking him to a safe hiding spot in a women's bathing house. That's great to hear he is doing so well. So Kakashi, would you mind lending me the book right now for a while? I will be sure to increase your payment for the mission. The stern look in Kakashi's eyes told the Hokage he was not willing to agree. Sorry, Hokage-sama. I apologize that I cannot agree with your suggestion. The Hokage was not going to give up so easily. As the Hokage of the village, I, Sarutobi Hiruzen, order you, my subordinate, Hitaki Kakashi, to hand over that book to me at this moment. I am sorry, but I will have to give up my official rank then if I must. Seems like you won't listen. I will have to take it by force. He went through a few hand seals and bit his thumb to drop and smear a bit of blood on the ground, before yelling out, Kuchios no Jutsu. Suddenly out of the smoke, a large round bow staff appeared in his hand. To this, Kakashi had only one thing to reply, over my dead body. He grabbed his headband with his hand and pulled it up to reveal his left eye, which had a bright red pupil. The pupil had few tomo marks in it that were spinning around. Both crouched back a little to move into the attack when the door opened up to reveal a ninja from the informations department. A letter has been received from Jiraiya-sama regarding the secrets in Yuzushiogakure. He then looked up from his clipboard to see an S-class ninja with his Sharingan blazing, facing the Hokage, master of all 5 elements, and summoner of Monkey King Inma. The two came to their senses as they got to a relaxed pose. I am sorry to threaten you over such a small matter, Kakashi. You are dismissed for now, but you better hand me the book as soon as you finish. The jounin vanished into a swirl of leaves as soon as he said, Hi, Hokage-sama. The boy in the corner, tied with ropes, was just trying to comprehend what happened and what could have happened if they went at it for real. Flashback within flashback end. Naruto stood in the middle of the field, And as expected, the Jounin showed up, not 4 hours late, like he was to every single timed meeting. So Naruto, will you hand me the book or not? The calm voice not hiding the anger anymore behind the mask. Over my dead body. Naruto blinked to see Kakashi's hand go through multiple seals, and then sparks flying from his hand as he said, Chidori. Naruto knew that he was serious, considering he almost gave up his shinobi career and life for the book earlier. But Naruto planned it well. If you kill me, the book will become unreadable within 2 hours. Oh, by the way, I hid the book somewhere you won't find without me. Kakashi knew it was a defeat. He would give up anything at this moment for the book, so what do you want? Show me how to do the Kage Bunshin technique. The ninja blinked at his wish. Even though it was a forbidden jutsu, he didn't bother to deny him. Naruto was going to be a future Leaf Shinobi, had high chakra levels for that jutsu, so he should be able to handle it. And the next 1 hour was spent with Kakashi showing in the jutsu. He was amazed to see Naruto able to produce 50 clones in the first hour. Kakashi could barely make 5 to 10, and that boy at that age made 50 clones with horrible chakra efficiency. The boy was going to wreak havoc in the future. Thanks a lot, Kakashi-san. By the way, here's the book. I was just lying about it being hidden. He took out the book from his vest. However, the ninja was clearly angry. He wasted 1 hour to train the boy when he could have finished another chapter of the sacred book. He took it upon himself to educate the boy some self-control. He put his palms together as he formed the shape of a gun with 2 fingers from each hand. He appeared right behind Naruto and slammed his hand into Naruto's, but as he yelled out, Konoha's secret finger technique, 1,000 years of death. Naruto's flight into the air marked the very first flight of a human being, even before Wright brothers' famous flight. Flashback end. Naruto was holding his, but in pain of the memory. Yup, definitely a pain in the ass. And then he remembered the training regiment he went through after that using his shadow clones, just so he didn't get a stick dick in front of Ino. Pain in the ass in more than one ways. Naruto slowly got off the ground and started heading towards home. Naruto ignored all the glares on the street, just like he ignored lectures on balanced diet. And talking about balanced diet, he was now sitting on a stool in Ichiraka's store, chugging down bowls after bowls of ramen. He finished 15 bowls under 10 minutes. That because it took them quite a bit of time to prepare the batches of ramen. He paid from the bit of money he had and left for his home. He needed to take his nap to re-energize himself and to go to play with Ino by 4 o'clock. He fell on his back on the bed. The creaking noise let him know that repairs were needed to be made to the bed pretty soon. He closed his eyes and warned the fox of the imminent pain awaiting the fox, should he fail to wake up Naruto by 3:30. As promised, the fox woke him up by a pretty unusual process. However, normal people would use their voice loudly to get through the sleeping man's senses, but the fox had his own ways. He forced chakra into the body to flow blood into Naruto's reproductive organ, which swole up like sugarcane in a good sandy ground. The cramped organ, which was demanding freedom through Naruto's tiny boxers, sent waves of pain to Naruto's brain, which forced him to wake up. A success on the fox's watch. Hey brat, see I kept your promise? Thanks a lot, Furball. I am eternally at debt to you for your kindness. The usual bickering continued as Naruto got dressed and left for the playground. Naruto walked towards the ground at a steady pace, not skipping anymore, since he was reminded of his intimacy with the concrete floor the last time he was skipping through the streets. His excitement faded away as he saw the ground empty. No traces of Ino's smell blowing from any direction. Not again. It was the same story yesterday, and he cringed at remembering how much work he had to do to find her. He took off to her house in a hurry, hoping to find a trace of her whereabouts or her smell. Ino's scent never reached outside the house for a while, which meant that she could only be in her house. He was about to knock on the door when Ino's mom came up to him. Get away from my house. Why are you here? I came here to see Ino. She didn't come to PLA-. He was cut off by her. She won't be playing with you anymore. And don't you dare come near her ever again. Don't let me catch you hanging around this place again. Naruto dropped his head down in shame, anger, and mostly sadness. Why does it happen every time? What do they think would he do? If he hasn't harmed Konoha in any way, then why would he harm Konoha now? Why couldn't they just believe his innocence for once? Why do they try so hard to devoid him of any happiness in his life? Why don't they understand it was a person from their highly worshipped Sharingan wielders who led Kurama into a rampage? He would have told everyone by now that it was a Sharingan wielder who forced Kurama to attack the village. But then again, chances were that Naruto would instead be tortured in fear that he was conspiring with the Kyuubi. The world was a hard place, especially when everyone around you is as hard-headed as Konoha civilians. Naruto left for home. What could he do? Force her mom to let Ino play with him? Sneak Ino out to play, with the possibility of her mom calling help from all the villagers afterwards? Or maybe just give up on her? No, of course not. He chose to believe in his friend's words. He wouldn't even dare to think that she would leave this friendship, so neither should he. He would hit the ground day after day, waiting for her to show up, hoping that she finally managed to convince her mom, hoping that she would finally come. It's been months since then. Today was the new year. The academy was going to start the next day. All he had been training day and night to forget the loneliness over the past few months. His now elite Jounin level chakra level and high Chunin level skills meant nothing to him, since he didn't even get to meet his friend, to whom he could share the news of his achievement. Of course, he could share the news to the Hokage, who would be quite happy to receive the news. However, Naruto wasn't dumb. He knew the Hokage had already set two umbus after him at all times to keep an eye on him, the smell letting him know that they never took rest. So he didn't feel he had any need to tell the Hokage to receive a fake reaction of amazement at his achievement. But he knew one thing. Even if Ino didn't come to play, she would at least join the academy, considering she is the next heir of the Yamanaka clan. Even if she joins next year, Naruto will be waiting for her to keep her promise. He spent the day sitting on top of the Fourth's monument, looking at the moon, wishing Ino was there with him to look at the multicolored fireworks exploding in the sky. But that didn't matter much, since he was going to the academy tomorrow, and if his luck shines, he can meet Ino again. Also, it would be his first step towards becoming the Hokage, which he promised to Ino. Also, Ino was going to help him on his journey. At least that's what she said. He woke up early in the morning. After months that seemed like years to him, he felt excitement rush through his body. He didn't need the fix to force a stick dick in him to wake him up. Naruto woke up with sheer willpower for the first time in months. Also, the fact that he had to train his body to the extreme discouraged him from waking up in the morning. But now he was more than happy to wake up early to see her face. OBOI, now he was really convinced that actors acting in movies didn't fake being hurt after being separated from the heroine. He took off from the window after getting changed into clean outfit. He jumped from one roof to another, and soon he found himself standing on the training ground right outside the academy. He went to the door and entered to see a giant board on the wall of the hallway. His name asking with a room number was posted on it. He followed the directions given by a few, unenthusiastic to see him, teachers. He was standing outside the door as he took a look inside. The floor was elevated more towards the back so that students in the back weren't obstructed visually from the lessons on the board in the front. He took a seat in the back. The teacher came in and introduced himself to everyone as he gave a disgusted glare at Naruto. Naruto just flat out ignored it as he seemed to search through the room with his eyes for someone. The disappointment in Naruto's face clearly told that he failed in his search. He sighed in disappointment as he laid his head down to take a nap. The second teacher also introduced himself to the class, who Naruto once again ignored due to the glare sent his way. The day went by pretty fast, and Naruto decided to go to the name board on the hallway. Yes, that's the only way for him to confirm. Right now, he was going through all the names on the board, and not just from letter I, but starting from the letter A. He went down and down, until his eyes lit up in joy of success. Yes, he found Ino's name in there. He did it. So it means she is either sick or visiting someplace, and she has to show up to the academy sooner or later, not the next year. Naruto this time started shipping back to his house, and his humming making another appearance after a few months. Kurama didn't subject to this disgusting change, however. It was becoming really rare to see his host feel happy since he was thrown out of Ino's house by her mother. No matter how much strength Kurama had, he felt totally helpless when Naruto felt sad, and not even his jokes could bring Naruto out of his stupor. Naruto came into school the next day with the same hope of meeting Ino, but once again he was let down. To add on to his disappointment, the teacher arranged for a surprise test on the very second day of academy to test the knowledge the students gained from studying before academy and on the first day of academy. The academy was supposed to send a list of books you need to study to prepare for academy, but they felt it unnecessary to send it to the demon boy. They were hoping to screw yet the boy's education to stop him from joining the ranks of the ninjas in Konoha. Naruto received the test booklet and opened it to see questions that not even most chunins could answer. Naruto's brain and the fox's experience, however, counted for the benefit, since he easily answered the questions. After finishing the test in a few minutes, he was about to lay his head down, but then unwillingly, he saw the questions on someone else's test paper. Those were what the questions for academy students were supposed to look like. The questions for him were deliberately made harder to savage his grades. The academy taijutsu training later on went pretty much the same. He was ignored during the hands-on combat lesson, and the basics that the teacher did teach him were meant to kill in a taijutsu battle of life and death. It was all disappointing until the teacher tried to give him a jab as an incidental mistake during training. However, the jab was dodged and Naruto sent him flying with a kick to his stomach. He crashed against the wall nearby. Everyone's mouth were wide open, until a small boy with duck-ass emo hair and a blue shirt bearing the Uchiha clan symbol came up to challenge him. "Oi, what's your name?" "Naruto Uzumaki, and it's not polite to ask others' name before saying your name." The boy merely grunted at Naruto's words. "I don't think I need to tell my name to some clanless boy like you. But since I'm going to beat you, I'll tell you my name. It's Sasuke Uchiha." All the fangirls nearby were squealing in joy that Sasuke was about to show how cool he was. Sasuke went straight for Naruto's face with a first pumped back. He needs absolute win against every strong opponent if he ever wishes to face his brother Itachi. Naruto was strong in his eyes, and he needs to be defeated first, for sake of his clan's revenge course, not jealousy by any means. Naruto saw this and tried to duck the punch, when Sasuke smirked as brought back his fist before finishing the punch and spun his body to his Naruto's face with his roundhouse kick. Sasuke may have been guided by an S-ranked ninja in his early life. He may have been trained by the former head of Konoha's police force, Fugaku, but Naruto wasn't lacking by any means. He was trained by the oldest and strongest living being in the village, and unknown to himself, he had the bloodline of two elite former clans of Shinobi world. Naruto by no means was inferior to Sasuke. Naruto merely crossed his elbows to block the kick with his forearms and then quickly grabbed Sasuke's leg and spun into the wall nearby. Sasuke managed to flip himself midair and land softly on the ground instead of the wall. Naruto's defense was solid, and so was his observation. Naruto's counterattack were even stronger, since he managed to block a kick and use the momentum of the kick to send an opponent flying. If there was one way to defeat Naruto, it would be by deception, but unless Naruto's observation skills are blocked, it wouldn't be possible to break his defense. Either there's sand at him or make him angry to lose concentration. Yup, making him angry should be easy. I guess living in the streets and eating from trash cans really do help people get stronger. He smirked to see him glare daggers into his head. Flashback. A 6-year-old boy wearing the Uchiha clan symbol on his back was walking through the streets with his father holding his hands. "Father, you didn't train me today either. Nasen isn't teach me either. He just pokes me in the head every time. He always hangs out with Shishui-san. He doesn't even care about me." The little boy did a really cute pout that melted through the police head's ice-cold heart. Fugaku just nodded his head in understanding before saying, "You know he is really busy after being promoted to Jounin, and I always have to work to keep the village safe, but I will train you tomorrow." He was expecting his son to yell in joy, but was surprised to see him indifferent to his story. When he faced the direction where his son was looking at, he held back a gasp. "Don't bother with him, son. Some people are meant to live below others in the society. To the Hokage, the villagers may matter the most, but to us our Uchiha clan holds the highest priority. Try to ease the clan's sufferings before you move onto the villagers." But the boy seemed unconvinced as to why the boy in front of him should suffer like that. Besides, let the boy be. He is an important key to rising the Uchiha clan above others. Sasuke, even though hesitant, chose to believe his father's word and his nindo. Someone who never gains any love or shelter their whole life would do anything once given even slight glimpse of hope. "Son, You will one day understand how much the Kyuubi's chakra will benefit our clan, and then you would appreciate this treatment of the child. The child was none other than Naruto Uzumaki. He was leaning against a garbage can, looking for food. His frail body with stick-thin bones somehow reflected the shapes of the dried-out rotten meat bones that were left in the trash can. His face was burned into Sasuke's memory, and with hate of course. That boy was an useful key to the rise of Uchiha clan. I'll prove to father I will be more important in the rise of the clan. Then he would definitely train me. Sasuke's dark thoughts of jealousy still showed signs of his innocent mind. Flashback end. Naruto let his anger get the better out of him. As he didn't focus on stopping Sasuke anymore, he aimed to break a few of his bones to teach him a lesson. He was super pissed. He didn't care what happens to him after that. He charged straight ahead to meet him head-to-head. Sasuke smirked in victory. His plan worked. Naruto's concentration and logical thinking was thrown straight out, and now he was charging blindly. Now he could beat him up. He tried to dodge and block the flurry of punches that Naruto sent his way. He just needed to find an opening, but before he could find one, he found his face being pulled into a really strong punch followed by a knee to his ribs, one of which ended broken. Then the roundhouse kick to his face got him to fly across the playground to the wall. All the fangirls were quiet and in shock. There's no way Sasuke-kun could be defeated so easily. Instead of encouraging Sasuke to win, that one outburst made him faint in pain, his clan's respect brought down by a mere street dweller. He would have his revenge, but for now he would have some rest. Yup, some rest from his public humiliation. When the teachers brought Sasuke to the hospital, no one cared to ask how Naruto was faring after Sasuke mentioned pretty traumatic personal events to him. Nope, they were too busy trying to take care of their Uchiha-sama's broken ribs. Their end reports to the civilian council and Hokage would always mysteriously change to highlight negatives of the blonde boy and improve Sasuke's social status. Apparently, Sasuke was unfairly beaten while trying to stop the blonde from harming the teacher. Naruto was now the one accused for cheating and also trying to harm fellow students and teachers. His standing in the civilian council was dominated by glares from villagers, complaining that the demon boy was growing too wild and that he was gaining too much courage. The Hokage, of course, flat out rejected their proposals to banish him from Konoha on such a small account. However, the Hokage had to satisfy the council at least a little, as Naruto was ordered to pay a hefty fine for harming his fellow students. Naruto's one witness, against hundreds of made-up stories of his savageness from the Sasuke fangirls, definitely didn't help his case. His options were to either be sent to correction center, fined, or banned from academy. He had to meet with Ino in the academy as soon as he could, so he chose to pay the hefty fine. He understood one thing, however: class and academy other than Ino held nothing of benefit or importance to him. He couldn't perform well without the teachers trying to knock him down. He couldn't hurt their Uchiha-sama unless he wanted to get accused of fictional crimes. And he couldn't even show his strength unless he wanted to be trialed by the council on counts of being demonized. Academy was hell, and Ino could possibly be the only air conditioner in this hell. It's been a week already since Academy started. Naruto's boredom was going overboard. He would walk outside the classroom and seldom inside throughout the whole week. Pranking the teachers brought him some relief from the pent-up urge in him of wanting to bite their head off. Well, at least that's what the fox suggests most of the time. It was another day of his boring school life, thinking about Ino. Ino was walking right outside the window. Yup, his imagination would sometimes be surreal. Ino came into the classroom, and everyone got excited to see a pretty girl in the class. The teacher introduced her to the class, and after several minutes of scrutinizing his imagination of having Ino in the classroom, he realized she really did come. She came at last. She kept her promise. She came to the academy, and now her mom wouldn't stop her. She went straight to Sakura since she didn't see Naruto. She was having a loud chat with her, and the gossips that were pent up in her, after being home caged for so long, finally managed to find an ear to spoil. The very moment the period ended, Naruto got on the bench. His excitement way too much for someone who seemed the least bit excited to be in the academy. He jumped from one tabletop to another at speed faster than the Hiraishin no Jutsu. He landed right next to Ino, the wind blowing from his run, making her long blonde ponytail dance in the air. His eyes gleamed with joy as he saw her face, still as beautiful and cute as ever, no signs of illness or injuries. her eyes still gleaming with bright colors, her smell radiating essence of lavender flower, and the bruises on her face and lips from last time he saw her were gone. It's been so long. I waited for you at the playground every day. And man, all these days of academy, without you were boring. Naruto took a glance at her face now to see a confused look on her. Her eyes were not showing any excitement, neither happiness at seeing her self-proclaimed friend for life. At first he thought she was having the most exciting time of her life, but now he could see her eyes were as lifeless as his used to be. But her reaction didn't compare to anything to what happened next. Naruto was stabbed and axed almost to the point of his death before, but never had he felt such pain in his heart. The unknown feeling of losing someone was too great. He had no one really close to him, so he never knew what it felt like to lose someone. But now he knew it felt worse than hell. Because when Naruto was blabbering on and on about his excitement at seeing her, she merely turned towards him in confusion, as she said something that instantly broke his heart and his hope. "Who are you?" Chapter 5. After all promises aren't meant to be broken. It was October 15th, 8 years past the attack of the Kekkei in Leaf Village. Ino, just like Naruto, was skipping down the stairs, having firm belief that her balance was good enough to keep her face from meeting the floor anytime soon. She reached the end of the stairs as she quickly headed into the clan head, Inoichi Yamanaka's room. She told him with a cheerful glee that she was going out to play outside. She saw the semi-permanent frown in his face form into a smile. Even after dealing with all the paperwork and meetings after the Uchiha clan massacre yesterday, he had the strength to smile whenever her daughter came to his mind. Her father's smile could ease her of any worries, just as her smile eased off Inoichi's overloaded head. She headed outside to play, the cheerful smile vanishing from her face now. How could she smile knowing that she was the reason her father had gained few more wrinkles on his forehead skin? She never wished to learn why, but now that she knew it, she felt helpless. Flashback. Ino was walking through the hallways of her house, as she was about to stumble into her father's room, but stopped herself to hear the groggy voice of an old man she assumed to be one of the elders in the clan. "Inoichi, our clan has gotten weaker over the last few generations. We lost Fuda Danzo-san, and we already lost most of our strongest fighters, including Yashinoki, during the Kekkei attack. I really hope you understand the grave situation we are in. You sense the tension in the Uchiha clan, don't you? The village is changing fast, and I don't think the next heir is ready to face all these changes. She doesn't seem to have special talents, and at a time like this, I don't think she is fit to be considered the next heir. That's all I have to say. You are quite right about our current situation, and truly she isn't ready." Ino felt the twinge of sadness in her heart. Even her parents didn't believe in her abilities. The clan members always eyed her in disgust, often whispering about how she is just an average girl, not a person who can lead a clan. She didn't want to be a clan heir by her own choice. But now that she was in this position, she couldn't give up. She trained day after night to become worthy of the role. She might be a female, and her taijutsu and physical strength might be lower, but she would make up for it with her intelligence. She just wanted to prove that she too can be worthy of the role. But she left with a frown, as she missed her father saying that she was the perfect heir since she has the mindset of a person who embodies the meaning of their clan's symbol, bush clover. She cared for others, enough to become friends with the most hated person in the village. She can be the sole reason for uniting and maintaining friendly relationship with the other clans in this village. He also praised her work ethics, and then had to give a friendly warning to the elder to not bring up this topic ever again. Flashback end. Ino was walking her way out of the mansion. As soon as she went past the sharp glares of the guards in her house, she started skipping and humming her way to the playground. Yes, her mood changes were faster than what other women experienced during their periods. And the reason for her mood change this time around was the recollection of her new friend's face. The smile on his face could keep her happy forever. She always wanted to make a friend who she could trust. She had many friends, in name only. The girls acted like they were her friends, but it didn't need her to have AI.Q similar to that of her genius acquaintance Shikamaru to figure out that all the girls hated her. She was prettier than almost all the girls around her, and she was the future heir to the Yamanaka clan. While the girls hated her out of jealousy, the boys lusted her for her status and beauty, nothing more. But on the other hand, there was Naruto, who didn't come to her like the other hunting dogs she was used to dodging in the playground. Yes, to Ino the other boys were nothing more than hunting dogs. If they liked her as a meal, they would jump onto her. And those who weren't hungry would plain ignore her, well, at least most of them. She always tried to make new friends and hope one day she would find a friend who cares for her deeply, but every one of her friends proved to be similar. She befriended Sakura, and when she was being bullied, she made Sakura confident in herself. But Sakura liked her attention only, and once Ino wanted to play with Naruto, Sakura left her just like her other friends. But Naruto made her feel special. He was flying over the moon just because she became his friend. The excitement in his face clearly told her that he really valued his friendship with her. She finally found someone who cared to be her friend instead of acting to be one. Also, she really liked playing with him. He was a bit on the stupid side, but he looked cute nonetheless. Her happy mood changed again as she saw 3 genins blocking her way. They were the same people that glared daggers at Naruto, as if their urge to slice his throat increases every second of seeing him happy. As the next heir to the head of the interrogation department, Inoichi, she started her training by profiling any random people that came to her attention, and so far the 3 of them were on the top of her people to avoid list. Oi, Yamanaka, where are you going? I don't assume you are going to the playground to play with that demon brat, are you? I don't know what you mean by demon brat, but who I play with or what I do is none of your business, so kindly move away from my way. Oh, so you're telling me you don't know the demon that you played tag with for the whole afternoon yesterday? Once again, I don't know how you found out I played tag yesterday, but the person you called demon has a name, and it is Naruto. So now for the second time, move out of my way. The 3 genins weren't too pleased, however. Oh, I'm sorry for blocking your path, but if you want to go play with that demon, then I will be blocking your path for a longer time, Missy. Well, I'm going whether you like it or not. The tick marks on the genin's head were proof that Ino's response wasn't what he had wished for. If you insist on playing with him, then I will have to play with you a little. He did a kukuko laugh to compliment with his creepy choice of words. Ino put her finger on her lip as if trying to point out a conclusion from her mind. They missed the mischievous smile she had for an instant. So you are a pedophile, aren't you? The boss face was red in shame and embarrassment. The 2 genins who were supposed to be helping him gain respect as the boss were instead rolling on the floor in laughter. The boss hissed in anger. So what? I like your face. Your age doesn't bother me. Now go out with me instead of playing with the demon. Yup, he was aiming to hit 2 birds with 1 stone from the beginning. Make the demon feel lonely and also get a beautiful girlfriend of a relatively younger age with 1 proposal. Sorry, but I'm not into shady perverts like you, so I will have to turn down the offer. The genins that had recently managed to stop their fit of laughter went back to their previous rolling and laughter, only much louder this time. The boss of the genins were pissed beyond limits. Why you bitch? He took a breath to calm himself. You know what, I'm going to show you some pain to teach you some manners to talk to those who are stronger than Yo Dash. He was about to slap Ino when she with her flexible and fast movements dodged underneath and landed a kick. She had learned from her father that no matter how strong a man was, no matter how much chakra a man had, the pain of getting hit in the organ placed in between their legs would definitely knock them out. The other genin's eyes popped out in imaginary pain and thinking what could have happened to their own precious golden balls had they underestimated her. The boss was laying on the floor, crying about how the blow to his pride needed to be avenged. The genins looked up to see Ino's silhouette fading into the horizon. By the time they were done helping their boss stand up, they started running after her, and she just kept running towards the ground. The genins had more than 1 advantages. They had a larger number, and had more experience in shortcuts in Konoha, and most importantly were really coordinated in teamwork. But their knowledge as genins also was crucial for this task. They found out that the Uchiha massacre took place yesterday, and today not too many people were expected to be spotted near the playground or the training ground. The ninjas would be busy too, so as long as they are not near Yamanaka compound, they were safe. The 3 split up. 2 of them split up to cover the road near the park's entrance, leaving the road right next to the park open. That road led to Training Ground 3. Since the genin chasing behind her blocked her way back home, she couldn't do anything but head towards Training Ground 3. She was desperately hoping someone would help her, even though she was ashamed to admit it. But sadly enough, there weren't many people surrounding the place. There's no way she could hold her own against 3 Genins. Right now, she really wished she had trained with the gravity seals like she saw Naruto using while playing tag. At least she could have been a bit more stronger. Then she remembered Naruto was supposed to play with her today, and Naruto has a really sharp sense of smell. So if she delays them for long enough, Naruto might be able to find her. But then again, those 3 Genins hated Naruto as far as she understood, so he would probably get even injured if they find him. Maybe she could just delay them long enough to find some other shinobis in the village for help. But unknown to her, most of the shinobis in the village were attending the funeral of an entire clan, excluding the lone survivor. After running for a while in circles, she realized there were 2 openings from the training ground. She went through one, and the other opening was near the other opposite end. She began to run towards it, without having the knowledge that the other 2 Genins met up at that opening. By the time she went to the opening, she saw the boss closing in, but the gate was really close, and she could even see 2 civilians near the gate. "Help! There are 3 thugs chasing me." The civilians faced her direction, and just when she approached them, they grabbed her hands, put them behind her back, and held it tightly. Ino was shocked as to why the civilians did it, until she heard a poof. Yes, Hinge, a basic academy jutsu required to pass the Genin exam, was what tricked Ino into getting caught. The next few minutes were spent the same way as before. The Genins kept telling her not to play with the demon, with a few slaps to knock sense into her mind. But her answer was always that she would play with whoever she wanted. Just by playing with him, she made him so happy. He had no other friends, so she was not going to leave him by any chance. She didn't want to be like Sakura and just leave her friend. "Oi, Yamanaka brat, I am telling you we are not going to do anything else to you if you stop hanging out with the demon." A wise sage once said, "Thou mustn't taunt thine enemies when thou haven't the strength to screw him up." Only if she had known about his quote, she might have been spared from making a horrible mistake. But she wasn't one who really enjoyed to keep opinions to herself. How could you be the queen of gossip if you keep your thoughts to yourself? The defiant look in her eyes made him furious as she said, "Screw you and your tiny brains." I don't think he did anything to be called a demon. His twitching eyebrows were a sign that he definitely didn't appreciate her rebellious nature and cheeky insult. "All right, I've had enough. You know how much I would like to have fun with you and teach you some manners." Her eyes opened wide as she saw his hand reach for her body, not with the intention to harm. No, she would have been far happier if he was simply trying to slap her right now, because what horrified her was the glint of lust in the boss's eyes. It was disgusting and something she hated the most. But her eyes went even wider to see Naruto closing in, the look of pure hatred in his eyes. His eyes could easily bore holes through the Genin's head. She was about to call out to Naruto to tell him to leave, but she couldn't, as she saw the air all around get thicker. Wind stopped blowing across the landscape, and she could see a darkened aura around the boy, which she blew off as imagination. Suddenly, the 3 Genins dropped down on their knees. She watched in amazement as Naruto punched and kicked and knocked the crap out of them. She watched in horror as Naruto took a kunai hit and fell down for her sake. And then she felt the joy of overwhelming victory when Naruto, with a badass line, broke the Genin's elbow for hurting Ino. Naruto mentioned a lot of jokes about movies in the few days that he played with her, but she played them off as childish obsession. But now she was sure, if her life was a movie, Naruto would definitely be the hero. Oh, how much she could gossip about it to everyone. She could have hours worth of gossip material solely based on how heroic Naruto was. But then her heart melted like a pudding when Naruto gave her the bush clovers and told her why. He meant every word he said, and it was clear from his eyes, since her parents' special talents in interrogation helps her out a lot in detecting any lies. He didn't lie when he said he was happy he was friends with her. He didn't lie when he said that she made him the happiest. He didn't lie when he said that her kindness was what he admired the most. She finally found the person she wanted for a friend, someone who saw her for more than just a clan heir and a pretty girl, someone who had admirable character, and of course it's an added bonus if the person has a cute face like Naruto. His dream of being Hokage didn't seem like a joke to her, considering how much he trained by himself, even during playing. And she wasn't joking either when she said that she would help him out by being the strongest kunoichi in the village. She couldn't have been happier that she asked Naruto to be her friend. And she couldn't have been more honest when she promised that she would make this friendship last forever. And now, just a few months after their last encounter, she was face to face with the same boy again in the academy. "Who are you?" That was all that Ino responded to Naruto's constant barrage of questions demanding why she didn't come to academy yet. Naruto stood there without any more words, his eyes not blinking, empty pupils, and no consciousness of what was happening in the world outside. He forced himself to stand upright, to not give in to the urge of just lying down and screaming his lungs out. But even a mere blow of wind could make him topple over at this moment. Is this what he waited all these months for? Just to hear her forget him? Just to hear his only friend not even remembering the promise to forever be friends? Did that promise really mean that little that she would forget it? A promise that gave him hope now was nothing but a mere memory of betrayal. But the future Hokage can't cry. Maybe she just forgot a little bit. Maybe she wouldn't remember something from that long ago. So he just needed to help her remember a little. She was still the same person, so no need to worry. He thought up his next few actions. He would stand up and laugh it off as a joke and tell her if she remembers playing during summer. If she doesn't, then it just means she forgot about the whole time. Ino saw the look of hurt all across his face. She couldn't understand the reason why he felt such sadness, but she for some reason felt the same pain in her heart. The longer she looked at the boy's lifeless face, the more her heart felt empty. She couldn't understand why, but she knew what to do. She needed a distraction. Naruto shook his head to come out from his statue pose and was about to say his designated line to laugh it off as a joke, but then he saw the audience missing. He moved his head around in a 360-degree to find her next to the bench in the front. He didn't need to go close to her to see that she was talking, and his super-sensitive ears definitely eliminated any needs to get near her to eavesdrop on the conversation. "Sasuke-kun, would you like to come to my house today? I haven't seen you since last summer, and I am pretty sure my mom would like you to be there too." Why was everything like this all the time? Why did that Sasuke get to have everything that he didn't? Why did he get to get everyone's respect, admiration, and love when he only got hate and suffering? He should have been viewed as a hero for saving the village, but the only villager that viewed him as a hero didn't even remember him, but she did remember Sasuke. He covered his ears. How could he listen to Ino's sweet talk with Sasuke about how the time she spent with him during summer was greatest in her memory? He didn't care how many people saw him crying. It didn't matter what others thought of him. He just wanted to cry his lungs out. He just wanted to get rid of all the sadness he kept trapped in him with chains of hope built by Ino's memories. His sanctuary was always the top of Yondame's head. At first, it was his admiration that made him want to be like the fourth, but now it was nothing more than hate that made him sit on his head. He would surpass him and show him that burdens aren't meant to be simply put on others without reason. He would never let his loved ones suffer, but now the problem was finding who he had left. The third was always there for him. Old Man Tucci and Ayam made food for him to cheer him up. Besides that, he didn't know anyone else who remotely cared for him. He always valued the third's teachings. A Hokage is a person who can give up his life for the village. But how can he even do that for a village that wants his existence to disappear? How long could he keep doing pranks to gain attention? How long would he have to wait to be acknowledged like that, Uchiha? At the direction that everything was heading, it wouldn't be long before his existence becomes a blank memory to the village. He had been constantly crying and screaming out loud for a long while. The Kyuubi didn't even stand a chance to console him. He just couldn't find how to do it. One thing he learned after being sealed in Naruto was that Kyuubi's chakra was the most powerful in existence, but he had no control over human emotions other than enraging them. He couldn't do a single thing to make Naruto happy when he was crying by himself. Naruto bottled up all his pain in a corner of his heart throughout the years. Not once had he shown his tears that built up every time he saw someone living a normal life. But all these years of tears, pain, and sadness broke through the dam as he wailed, howled throughout the afternoon to night. Even the third Hokage didn't have any way to make him feel better, since he had been merely standing behind the boy for the last few minutes, watching the boy cry his eyes dry. The Umbus and all the high-ranked ninjas felt it through the village. The unstable fluctuations of the most feared chakra in Konoha, the Kyuubi's chakra. The Hokage being bound by his job, and also his sense of responsibility to his surrogate grandson, sealed off the area around the Fourth's monument and stood there in hopes to ease the boy's suffering. After minutes, which to the Hokage seemed like painful hours, The boy's howls grew into inaudible sobs. The Hokage walked a few steps closer to him, finally receiving a reaction from Naruto regarding his presence. Naruto turned towards the Hokage and looked at him with his puffy eyes, still tears streaming down. The Hokage bent down in his knees to get down to Naruto's sitting form and hugged him tightly, allowing the boy to cry onto his shoulder. Naruto-kun, it's all right to cry sometimes. He took a deep breath before speaking again. If you cry, it doesn't make you weak. The burden on your heart makes you weak. You could tell me whatever is bothering you, and I promise it will ease the burden. Naruto cried for long enough to have the Hokage's robe dripping wet with tears from his shoulder to belly. Gigi, you remember when I told you that I made a friend? The Hokage nodded in response. The memory was still clear as a daylight to him. After all, it was one of the few moments when Naruto got so happy even without having ramen involved. I played with her for a few days, and I never felt happier. She even stopped playing with her friend so that she could play with me. She also taught me to play hide and seek and tag, even though she wasn't really good at either. The memories always cheered up Naruto, and even on the Hokage's shoulder, he was almost jumping when he described his friend's adventures with him, how he beat those Genins to save her. But then his cheering stopped. The Hokage already understood that the root of his conflict lies in the next few moments of the story. After she went home, she never came to play. But I knew she was going to the academy, so I trained hard and joined the academy. But when she came after Sniff a week, he broke down in another fit of sobs that greatly interrupted the flow of his story, almost leaving the third on a cliffhanger. I saw her come into class, but she couldn't even recognize me. And then he broke into another fit of painful sobs as he said, "You know, I really thought maybe she had forgotten since it has been months." But then she went to Sasuke's team and could remember everything about him from the summer before. He came out of the Hokage's hug and looked down. I don't have parents or any family, just like Sasuke. I am even stronger than him. But why does it always have to be me? Why does everyone want to be his friend, but in years my only friend doesn't even want to recognize me? I am really horrible, am I not? I can't even see others being happy around. Can I be a Hokage if I can't even see my own villagers being happier than me? He let out a bitter laugh at his own personality, which he considered to be the equivalent of a loser. I wish at least sometimes they would let me be happy too. Just for a few times I wish they could let me feel what it is like to be loved and respected by everyone. The Hokage put an arm on Naruto's shoulder and sat right next to him, like a grandfather who was about to console his grandkid after losing a toy. Jealousy, desire, and loneliness. These are all human emotions. You are simply a human bound to these emotions. It doesn't make you bad. And I really feel pity for all those villagers who have less maturity than a child. You know, sometimes I really do hate this village, even though I am the Hokage. I really hate the people who could hurt a little kid just over some blind belief. The Hokage stopped for an abrupt moment. He didn't want to reveal more than necessary, and certainly tonight wasn't the time to reveal his burden. But he looked at Naruto's face to see no reaction. He realized at this moment that Naruto might have already learned about it somehow, but not certain as to how. He decided to talk about it later. But at the moment he had further pressing matters. He needed to know why his friend left him, since according to him his friend wasn't willing to unfriend him even when threatened. So who was this friend of yours? Ino Yamanaka, the girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. The Hokage's eyes widened at the information. Understanding swept through him, and finally he took a breath in peace. He solved the mystery. But the real problem was, neither could he tell Naruto the reason, nor could he solve the base of the problem. He understood the situation as soon as she heard Yamanaka, the clan famous for their expert handling of memories, the clan that conceded huge damage during the Kyuubi's wrath. Even though he couldn't explain the situation to Naruto since it would only make him sadder, he decided to at least give him tips to deal with the situation. His years of experience would definitely come to use. Rest assured, she had a memory loss issue which caused her to lose your memory. The Hokage then lifted Naruto's head up to face him eye to eye. A true friend would never give up on someone. If she means so much to you, go befriend her once again. If she forgot about the times you spent with her, then spend time with her once again. If she was the friend you always wished for, then make her your friend again. The Hokage felt the pride of accomplishment in his chest, which was now puffed to its maximum size to hold in the joy that he gained to see his grandson smile, even when his eyes were tearing. I knew it. I told you right. Hokage is the best. Kurama knew the sentence was directed towards him and also knew that the Hokage would soon ask Naruto about him, since the Hokage was setting up sound barriers nearby. Naruto looked around confused to see the Hokage erect a barrier. Naruto-kun, be honest to me. Do you know about the burden you carry? Naruto saw the concern in his eyes and knew it would be best to answer truthfully to him. Hi, Gigi. The day you saved me from that axe man, I went into my mindscape and met him. I can talk to him. The Hokage's eyes went wide. He expected Naruto to have learned about it by some other means, but now it complicates things much more. He didn't want to have to deal with the paperwork, and maybe Naruto's chittering about his heritage. But then he released a sigh of relief as he heard. But Kurama doesn't remember much about anything about his previous Jinchurikis. By the way, did you know before the Yondaime sealed him in me, he remembered being controlled by a Sharingan user with a mask? The Hokage's eyes widened at this piece of information. He knew there needed to be a reason for sealing the beast into Naruto. He could have sealed it into Kushina, who was almost dying, and simply finish off the threat completely. But he didn't, most likely because he knew the power of the strongest tailed beast would be necessary to defeat an enemy that could even control the Kyuubi. And there was no Sharingan user in Konoha at that time, capable of facing and surviving Minato Namikaze, even near his death stage. And before you think he can control me or stuff like the other villagers, I only talk to him with a mind link, and sometimes he teaches me jutsus in my mindscape. Besides that, he has no control over me, and neither do I over him. In a way, he actually seems like a family member, although a bit annoying. The Hokage's worries all washed away, not only because now it seemed that the Kyuubi's threat wasn't too great, but also because Naruto had already started joking, which means his mood was changing for the better. But he had a concern in mind. Naruto didn't have control over the Kyuubi's chakra because a few hours ago when he was crying, the radiating pulse of the chakra could be felt throughout the village. But then talking about Minato, he remembered his own student, the legendary pervert. Not only did he need to borrow a new update on the Ika series directly from the author, but he also needed him to train Naruto to use the Kyuubi's chakra properly. The reason was apparent. If Minato deemed the enemy strong enough to sacrifice the future of the boy, then the boy has to be able to use that strength to make the sacrifice meaningful. This summer, I will let you meet one of my students, who is really strong. If you train with him, you will grow a lot stronger, you know. Maybe you could become the Hokage even faster. The faster you take over my seat, the better for me. Naruto, with a wide, goofy grin, replied, I will snatch the seat from you before you will know it, Databeo. He released the barrier, and after patting the boy goodbye, the third left. Mission stabilized Kyuubi's chakra successful, and the payment for him for that mission was more than enough. The sweet smile of the boy was enough to let him rest in peace for a while before he faces off against his eternal rival, not Danzo Shimura, but paperwork. He sighed in depression as he remembered the stack of paperworks he had left in his office hours ago when he left. Well, not everything can go your way, so make the most of what you can. That was his motto. He took out his Ika book and started reading it while walking lazily towards his office instead of Shunshin, in order to increase the reading time. While there were many more things he would now need to do to ensure that the future is in safer hands should he die anytime soon. But for now, he was enjoying his Ika goodness while giggling like Kakashi, dearly hoping that the female population doesn't notice him. Naruto stayed on top of the monument for a while longer. The breeze soothed his senses. The tears on his face dried up in the windy night. All the stars now visible and the moon brighter than ever, standing atop his head. Out of all the stars and objects in the dark sky, the first thing he noticed was the bright moon. Out of all the ninjas in the village, he would be the moon that reflects the light of hope from the sun or the previous Hokages. God damn it, he was venturing further into the deep end of his poetic mind once again. He needed to get out of this habit or else the fox might hear high. Naruto muttered damn it again as he heard the fox rolling and laughing in his mind. I will be the moon to light up the dark sky. The fox did his imitation of Naruto's determined face, trying to form his paw into a fist to hold tightly against his heart. Now he wished Naruto was there to look at his imitation. Well, brat, you could definitely be the moon. I believe in you. Naruto was hopeful that the fox was actually taking his feelings into consideration after his last few hours of crying, but nope, 'cause you got no light of your own. The fox said devastating jokes to destroy the opponent's brain cells, and then he would roll on the floor to squish the opponent to the ground, a fatal submission move. So Naruto, what are you planning to do about Ino? You are seriously not going to give up, right? The fox already knew Naruto wouldn't give up, but asking just for confirmation couldn't hurt anyone. Just as expected, he received the reply he believed he would hear from him. You know, she promised to forever be my friend. And if she cannot keep her promise for some reason, at least I can help her do it, he said with a smile, while looking at the moon with determination in his eyes. After all, promises aren't meant to be broken. Chapter 6. A typical day in Konoha. It was 6:00 in the morning. Ino barely got any sleep, that whiskered face of that boy with blonde hair lingering around in her mind. It hurt her every time, every damn time, whenever she remembered the lifeless expression he had when she said she couldn't recognize him. Did she really know him? Why did he care so much if she remembered him or not? Well, the answer was simple. Only the boy knew the answer, and she would get the answer out of him. Oh, how much she wished someone could erase the memory of that boy from her mind so that she could sleep for a while. Talking about sleep, she was on her 104th attempt at sleeping by counting number of sheep on the ceiling of her room. Her eyes started to close down to a line by the end of counting 57 sheep. Soon enough, the relaxed breathing from her body indicated that she attained the highly sought sleep she wished for. 5 minutes later. Kring, 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 and bam. Ino hated this sound. She could listen to Sakura bitching about her beauty all day long, but the sound of alarm clock she couldn't bear. Every day the sound of alarm clock would be trumped by a loud bang. It was always her hand slamming the clock into the desk that trumped the noise of the alarm. Today her sleep was cut short to just 5 minutes by the alarm clock, and the punishment for that was the destruction of the clock. The gears were circling around the desk, and the clock still kept ticking, but at least the alarm stopped. She got up, rubbing her eyes, that now had dark circles around it, which highly contrasted her fair skin. No makeup could hide that, and also she didn't use makeup anyway. She got up and headed downstairs and cleaned herself and got ready for academy. She packed her backpack and went into her father's room to say bye. But the atmosphere was something she didn't exactly prefer. Her father and her mother were standing in a stare-off. The thick air of animosity indicated that she came in during a heated argument. If you don't want to tell me what happened, it's fine, but rest assured the Hokage will get his answers anyway. He summoned your presence at 8 o'clock, and also he wasn't in a good mood. So don't do something that would make him or yourself regret. The loud snort was the only reply she gave. That was the trademark sign of rebellion, according to Ino. Ino just shook her head. Her father and mother still fought like kids. Father, I'm heading out, so see you later. Her father's annoyed face from the argument mustered a smile, just like always, after seeing her daughter. Take care, Ino, and remember to do your best. He saw her exiting the room while bidding her head. His smile disappeared again as he faced his wife. All right, I will be careful while talking to the Hokage. In the academy. Ino walked into the room, and instead of sitting with Sakura in the front of the room, she went to the back of the room. She dearly needed some sleep to get rid of the recently developed dark circles. If she only knew the name of the boy that caused this, she would have cursed him out 1,000 times for her sleepless night. Speaking of the devil, she faced to her right to see the blonde-haired boy running his eyes and look in her direction. He saw him tense up and start shaking. The black circles around his eyes clearly indicated he had even more of a restless night than her. And why would he not? Flashback of last night. Yo, furball, is that good enough? Or do I need to come up with a better excuse? Before doing all that, you should just go to sleep. I doubt she will become friends with you with those black raccoon circles around your eyes. You almost look like Shikaku like that. Kurama was on his own world of amusement since Naruto didn't know who Shikaku was or how it related to his raccoon eyes. But then he remembered the black patch that went from around Kurama's yes to his ears. Oi, Kurama, what is that patch of black around your eyes? It's just a part of my face, just like those whiskers are part of your face. I bet that black patch around your eyes is the reason you have no friends. Naruto couldn't contain his laughter, while the beast thought to himself, I am to blame myself for this. After all, he learned these cancerous jokes from me. Fuck my life. Really good one there. Now just focus on your work if you don't want the stick dick in front of Ino. Kurama felt relieved to see him go back to his thinking pose. It had been a long time since he last managed to use that against Naruto, since Naruto didn't get to meet Ino for the last few months. You know what, Furball? I think I found the perfect line. The crackhead smile on Naruto's face meant that he was quite confident of his coming success. Flashback end. Naruto had been shaking in nervousness this whole time. Ino raised an eyebrow looking at him. He's strange. She went ahead and asked him first, since he was just glancing at her and facing some direction whenever he was caught. Do you have something to say to me? Yes. Would you please be my friend? The puppy eyes he made could rival the power of any jutsu at persuasion. Heck, even Danzo's Sharingan that was stolen from Shursui wouldn't be able to cast such a strong jinjutsu of persuasion. She couldn't possibly reject his offer, even though she now despised him. She despised him, first for stealing her night's sleep, and second for hunting around her like a hunting dog. Yup, just like other boys, he just came to be her friend, probably because of her face. He didn't know much about her or anything, so that's the only explanation she had for his interest in her. Of course, why not? She hadn't studied human anatomy yet, but she could learn a thing or two looking at the structure of the wide, open eyes and the large face, splitting smile on the boy's face. Now she was expecting to hear him ask her out on a friendly day out or take her on a romantic walk in the park. Typical male behavior. Even boys of this age showed same interest in girls. But she didn't expect him to say what he said. Ino-san, if you ever feel lonely or want to play or need help with anything, I can come over at any time. And thanks a lot for being my friend. Even though this was his second time becoming her friend, he really didn't mind it. In fact, even during his second time befriending, he felt the same nervousness and excitement as the first time when he became her friend. He was about to say the rest of his script when a chalk hit his head. The teacher in the front had his arms crossed. Don't disturb the class, Naruto. Go and stand outside the class while holding those water buckets and on one leg. Everyone laughed at Naruto being punished. Seems like he wasn't much popular among the girls since the hostile growls and roars of laughter from those girls didn't really seem friendly. Well, that had to happen, since he touched and broke a bone in their Sasuke-sama's chest even before any of the girls managed to lay their hands on his chest. Her attention then was brought back with the noise of a few cranky coughs. And Ino-san, meet me after class. Now Ino was totally confused. First, the harsh punishment for Naruto for speaking a bit loudly even before the class started, and now calling Ino for a lecture without any reason. Well, maybe it was just a bad day. Yeah, the day wasn't lucky for her, that's all. Naruto, on the other hand, was steaming in anger. Damn it, you sensei. On other days, you don't even care about what I do. Now that I finally got talk with Ino, he had to butt in. At least this could improve my balance a bit. Yeah, I better make lemonade with the lemons he gave me. A person who ran all day long with gravity seals on could easily hold buckets while standing on 1 foot for about the whole day. So Naruto right now was standing on his tiptoe, and it hurt like hell, but he enjoyed it. He would have been the perfect student had he been trained by the Konoha's most feared masochist, Anko Mitarashi. The rest of the periods went by without a hitch. Naruto just stood there outside the room with the buckets filled with still water through the whole day. Ino came out of the room to see the blond boy with his eyes closed, the water buckets hanging down his extended arms, and weirdly enough, not a single wave or ripple in the water in the bucket. Well, now isn't the time to be impressed. She was detained for a long lecture because of his outbreak, and she didn't even know his name. She brought her face right in front of the boy's face. He was too concentrated on maintaining the chakra input into the water buckets to notice the smell of Ino approaching near his face. He almost jumped onto the ceiling when he heard a hey right in front of his face, and on top of that it was Ino. The bucket moved back and forth, but no matter how much the buckets rocked, not a drop of water spilled. How are you doing that? After settling down for a few seconds, he answered, You had me scared out of my life right there. And this? I am just using chakra to hold the water's shape inside the buckets. Well, that's quite impressive. Nice face you made there a few seconds ago. So what is your name? It's Naruto Uzumaki. Remember it, because this is going to be the name of Hokage someday. He did the Usain Bolt pose. He was definitely putting his all into creating an image for a confident Hokage in the future. but he apparently forgot about the 2 buckets he threw up to the air to do his victory pose. Naruto should have paid attention to the good old quotes of physics. Whatever goes up must come down. The buckets bunked his head while the water drenched his clothes. Ino's eyes were shining with evil fire. She probably found something she could use to blackmail him for the rest of his life. If you want to play with me, you could come to the playground at 4:00. Don't be late unless you want everyone to know that the future Hokage pissed his pants. Naruto looked down to see that except for his shoulder and his groin area, nothing else got wet. And now it looks like he pissed his pants, and that too happened in front of Ino, who was now fired up at having a gossip material. The same thing happened during their first encounter, when she blackmailed Naruto to come on time to save his reputation as future Hokage. Oh, how history repeats itself. Naruto was now sure that even if her memories were gone, she was still the same person at heart. Hi Ino-sama, I will not delay your routine. Ino giggled away seeing Naruto doing a mock salute. She still didn't see what was wrong with him, but she knew something was wrong with the people of Konoha. Flashback. Damn that blondie. First he asks me to be his friend, and now I am in trouble because of him shouting out loud. The teacher looked towards the door to see a blonde girl entering the teacher's room. Ino-san, we have some pressing issues to talk about. You see, the person you were talking to this morning wasn't someone you should mix with. He is the worst influence you could have during your academy years. So for your own benefit, I ask you to keep your distance from him. Hi, sensei. That was the only reply Ino gave to his sensei. So that's why, probably the teacher doesn't let him have friends. That's why he was so eager to be friends with me. He may be a bit dense, but definitely not a delinquent of any sort. Well, it doesn't matter much. When it comes to making friends, I will befriend anyone I want. And he doesn't seem to have many friends, and he was really happy too. So it shouldn't hurt to be his friend. After talking to herself for a while, she headed towards the exit, when she saw the boy with buckets and his eyes closed. Flashback end. Ino was walking back towards her home after saying bye to the blonde boy, who was now wiping the floor clean from the water he splashed while doing his victory pose. So his name is Naruto. Even my mom told me never to go close to him. He doesn't seem like a person that even the adults would tell you to ignore. Whatever, at least I get to play with a cute boy after a long time. She entered her mansion in the Yamanaka clan compound, but before she could announce her arrival, she could hear a few sobs coming from inside, while the paper doors didn't block even the faintest of noises from reaching her. Sounds like mom crying. I guess it was bound to happen after the argument she had with father in the morning. Ino's guess was far from what actually happened. But Ino wouldn't know anyway, since she walked upstairs to her room, not meeting her mother, who was sitting in the corner of the room, clutching her knees to her chest while shivering. Inoichi had warned her, but she didn't listen, and now she was scared half to death. She should have thought about the result of her actions before committing them. Flashback. Inoka Yamanaka was standing outside the Hokage's room, waiting for her turn to enter the room to oblige with the Hokage's summoning of her. A rough voice came from inside. The next person may come inside. She headed inside the room and bowed her head to show her respect to the Hokage. You summoned me, Hokage-sama? Yes, Inoka-san. I have some pressing issues to talk about. She raised her head and heard exactly what she didn't want to talk about. Recently, our Yamanaka clan heir somehow lost her memories about a certain villager. You wouldn't have any knowledge about it, would you? He just wanted to let her know about the situation really nicely, since he didn't really want to deal with his anger erupting out. But the response from her wasn't a show of guilt or regret. It was prideful arrogance. She crossed her arms and said, "And who might this villager be, whose memories are so important to stay in her mind?" Naruto Uzumaki. Yes, I erased his memories from her mind. I would rather not expose my daughter to the influence of the demon Br. She was cut off. She had her eyes closed through her last sentence, so she couldn't see what was happening in front of her. If she did, she would have been shaking like the umbus were shaking in the room. In front of her stood the Hokage with his arms on the table, trembling in anger and in an attempt to stop himself from slitting the throat of one of his villagers. His eyes were facing down, not letting the killer stare scare his visitor. Inoka knew better than to talk to him right now. He saved the village by keeping the Kyuubi sealed in him. He lived without his parents, grew up with his own strength. Never for once did he harm any villagers physically. The Yandame's last wish was to consider him a hero. But is this how you repay him? But the QB killed so many of our villagers. Shouldn't the QB pay for that? What if he grows up to do the same? Her knees were shaking, and she couldn't even think straight, so she said whatever came to her mind. And it definitely wasn't what the Hokage would have wanted to hear. The Umbus nearby slapped their forehead in frustration. They had a lot of cleanup to do. They were just hoping they don't have to carry a dead body to the morgue. They tightly clasped onto their nearest objects to stand straight during the upcoming shock. A fraction of a second later, the desk under the Hokage's hands shattered into million pieces without any effort. Even though he is not the QB, he had to pay the price of the QB's wrath. He had to pay with everything he has in his life. His family, his belongings, his shelters. He doesn't get food from the stores, nor clothes or shelter from the orphanage. He doesn't get paid to keep the QB from attacking the village. He gets attacked and almost killed by the villagers he is protecting. He doesn't get the respect that the martyrs of the QB attack does. Did he lose any less than those dead shinobis? The future of the village rests upon his shoulders, and you want him to pay for something he isn't even responsible for? By now, Anoka was on the floor on her knees, too scared to look up. The Hokage calmed down a little bit, but his anger wasn't gone. How would you feel if Ino-chan received poison cakes for birthday? How would you feel if she gets stabbed, punched, axed, cursed, beaten, spat at, and almost killed on her birthday? How would you feel if she had to eat food from the trash can and live on the streets? How would you feel if she had to wake up every day thinking of how to survive? How would you feel if your daughter cried herself to sleep every night because of people that she was saving every day? The Hokage looked at her face and knew that she had no answer. You know that boy took beatings, poison, stabbing, insults, hatred, and never for once he hurt a soul in this village. Never for once did he try to hurt the ones that tried to kill him. One time when he was about to die, I saved him. And you know what he said to me? He asked me why I couldn't just let him die and why I couldn't let his sufferings end. For suicide attempts, and he is not even 9 years old. Every single word contained the venom in his heart. The words that he wished Naruto should have said instead of accepting every bad fate. He was crying. He had to live protecting a village that wouldn't even let his grandson smile for one. To hear a boy of his age plead for death, do you know how it feels? He tells me every day that one day he is going to be the Hokage, and everyone would love and respect him. And you call him a demon? Every time he would get stabbed by someone, he would hide his injuries so I wouldn't do anything to those who hurt him. He wouldn't shed a tear so that I don't have to think of him as weak. He would put on a smile through all his pain so that I do not worry about him. And I saw him smile with happiness for once. That was when he became acquainted with your daughter, and you want to take away that smile from him too. The Hokage slowly sat down in his chair, mentally exhausted but somehow content at being able to release all the pent-up anger in his heart in one breath. He saw the women try to pick herself up, but fail, at which point one of the Umbus picked her up and decided to escort her home. But before leaving, the third gave her a calm and collected lecture. I hope I never hear another report of you trying to isolate Naruto from the only friend he has. Also, if you want to file a claim against me for favoritism in front of the Daimyo Lord, you can. However, I hope you remember the agreement between the Shodaime and clan leader of Yamanaka. Unless for emergency, life-threatening situations, the use of mind alteration jutsu on any leaf villager without the Hokage's permission is punishable by death. Ino-chan may be a Yamanaka, but she is still a villager of Leaf. And I am the strongest shinobi in the village, with the highest authority in the village. And yes, I am showing absolute favoritism to the hero of Konoha, Naruto Uzumaki. With the swirl of leaves, Inoka Yamanaka vanished along with the Umbu holding her up. The Hokage finally felt a smile dig its way up to his face as he sighed in relief. His chest was feeling much lighter today, since he spent a sleepless night remembering the face and the words of the crying Jinchuriki the night before. But his smile didn't last long, seeing the huge pile of papers on the floor along with the dust of the wooden table. Let this cursed village be damned. I am in mood to read my Ika Paradise right now. The Umbus in the room, who finally managed to catch a breath, facepalmed themselves to see that the Hokage was now reading adult smut books mere seconds after he looked like he was about to destroy the place in anger. Flashback end. Ino was sitting in her room, thinking about everything that happened. Everything seemed so weird, It was almost like a déjà vu. At least she was glad that she became friends with Naruto, and most likely he wasn't interested in her just for her looks. Her ego was somewhat comparable to the size of Sakura's forehead. She recently started to somewhat compete with her friends in terms of beauty to capture Sasuke's heart. Other girls were intrigued by his coolness, his status as the only Uchiha, his skills, and of course most importantly his handsome facial features. But she didn't really care about either of them. She only wanted to change him for the better. She hated his present self, always self-loathing, and bears an aura of hatred around. But she knew it could be changed. After all, he used to play with him during the summer. And no matter how unlikable Sasuke was in his current self, Sasuke still was the one to give her those bush clovers during summer. She still remembered how he explained that the flowers represented her wish to hold on to and care for friends and others. Yesterday, when Sasuke didn't even recognize her, she felt the despair. The despair which was eased by her mother, who said that he had lost a lot of memories from the shock of watching the deaths of all of his clan members. The explanation didn't settle well with her, but she chose to believe her mom, since for the last few weeks, she had been the one taking care of her. Also, until the death of her uncle during the Kyuubi's attack, her mother had been an expert in Yamanaka clan jutsus and history, but to shock her brother's death somewhat demotivated her from the shinobi career. So as an expert on mines, Ino couldn't trust anyone as much as her mother. Ino woke up from a long nap to see the clock ticking at 3:50. She lazily headed downstairs to get ready to go outside, a smile gracing her face, remembering the stupid nature of Naruto. On the other hand, Naruto was in the park skipping from one side to the other. It had been a long time since he'd play tag with someone other than his own clones. A smile crept on his face thinking of how much fun he was going to have. The Hokage, on the other hand, had a wide smile on his face. It seemed almost like he hit a jackpot, which he quite surely did. What made the Hokage smile was the information he had gained from his Umbu, who just happened to come to him to report on Naruto's whereabouts. According to him, Naruto did his nature affinity test using the chakra paper before leaving his house to go to the playground. Hokage's curiosity to learn about Naruto's nature affinity was way too visible. It was like a parent waiting to see their children's report card. The Umbu decided to tease her Hokage a bit more. "Are you sure you want to hear it, Hokage-sama? I mean, you were busy reading that orange book of yours." She was a female after all, and watching her Hokage read smut books didn't really help her gain much respect for him. "If you make me wait any longer, I will be sure to take my discount from your paycheck this month. You wouldn't want that, would you, Yugao?" The sweet tone and his shaking eyebrows made it clear that now wasn't the time to delay him. Here's the report. When he passed his chakra into the paper split into thousands of small pieces, and all of them burned to ashes instantly. It seems he has an overwhelming affinity towards both fire and wind. The smile on Hokage's face could definitely mirror his student Orochimaru's smile. He was reminded of the letter from Jiraiya that he received about 2 years ago. His travels to Yuzushivikure was successful since he found out new sealing techniques and a really important piece of information. Jiraiya on his trip managed to meet a few Jinchuriki, and oddly enough all of them had some sort of Kekkei Genkai or special ability. When he read about the tailed beasts in the scrolls about sealing, he found out that most tailed beasts had extremely strong affinity to certain elements. If those elements manifest within the Jinchuriki, then the Jinchuriki will likely gain abilities that use those nature types. The Kyuubi, according to Hashirama, could use fire and wind. So if the affinities of wind and fire in Naruto is so strong, it would mean that he would gain special ability that incorporated wind and fire. And he could envision him being able to use the famed Scorch Release, the Kekkei Genkai of the hero of Sunagakure, Pakura. The Hokage took his pen and started writing in codes in a paper which could be translated to, "Dear Jiraiya, I am not really in the mood to exchange greetings, but I got news for you. Naruto seems to have befriended the Kyuubi, and he even made a friend in the village. Well, after his 4th suicide attempt, it was good to see him happy. And he still wants to be a Hokage just like before. I think he is ready to be trained by you. Every day, he trains with 100 of his own shadow clones in the training ground that I emptied for him. And he has extreme affinity to wind and fire-type chakra, just like the Kyuubi. So I guess with his abilities, only you can guide him to the proper direction, since the academy studies aren't enough for him, and the teachers don't try to teach him either. So now I can only rely on you. Stop by during this summer to pick him up on your research trips. And also don't forget to send me your new issue of Aika Aika Paradise. Sincerely, Hiruzen Sarutobi. He realized from the killing intent nearby that the female Umbu had deciphered the code about him asking for a new issue of Aika Aika series. But that didn't bother him much. He was getting used to being called pervert by both Naruto and some of his subordinates. He was brought out of his thoughts as he heard the loud thump of stacks of papers hitting his newly replaced desk. Paperwork, we meet again. I almost forgot what misery was for a moment without you. Hokage's assistant facepalmed herself to see her Hokage engage in a stare-off with the paper stack. And things went back to how it was, with Naruto skipping to the park, Ino playing tag with him, and the Hokage resisting himself from using his jutsus on the paperwork. A typical day in Konoha.